Hello, what up, and welcome to the live NBA draft show from My Fantasy Podcast, myfantasysportstalk.com, here representing myself and Dan Chalk. It's the moment we've been waiting for. Well, probably the second biggest moment I've been waiting for. The next big moment will be June 26th, but today's June 22nd, draft time.
Yeah. You had to bring June 26th into the start of the draft show. I'm pumped about the draft. Been looking forward to it all week. And you dropped June 26th. I mean, I'm gonna forgive you for that and kick this draft show off good with Lonzo Ball being the second pick. The next coming LeVar Ball. We're gonna be talking about him probably all night, and I know you're gonna love that. So that'll be my recourse to that. But I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be crazy. I can already tell. I'm not gonna let you talk. It's great.
This is going to be crazy because the lead up to it's already been crazy with all the trades we've seen this week. Dwight Howard can't keep a job. The Lakers pulled off probably the biggest deal, sending away D'Angelo Russell, which I've been saying for probably 2 years is okay with me. And you know that because I was never a big fan. But I really think the Lakers got the better end of this. They're getting the 27th pick in the first round tonight and Brook Lopez, who is the Nets' all-time leading scorer.
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of fleeced the Nets. Seems like a lot of teams fleece them in trades, a.k.a. Danny Ainge. But I think the Lakers definitely got the steal of it. And if they can package that 27 and 28 for maybe a Paul George tonight, I think it'll even be better for them. So I think it's guaranteed Lonzo is going to go too. I know you still have some question marks to that. But this is LeVar's night, so I think it's going to happen. And the Lakers have a bright future, even if they don't do anything with those two picks trading for Paul George this year. I think they're probably going to get him next year anyways. And if they can get 3 first-round draft picks in a deep draft like this, I think you're going to be talking close to the playoffs next year for them.
So it took me maybe 7 seconds to bring up June 26th and Russell Westbrook receiving the MVP, and it took you probably less than 3 minutes to bring up LeVar Ball. So we're even. So that's an even trade.
I told you I was doing research today on the draft. I was just watching clips of LeVar Ball talk. So that was my research leading up to tonight, and I enjoyed it. And I think we're probably gonna see him a few times on camera tonight, and I know you're gonna love it.
I know I'm not, and I would like to see what Lonzo Ball actually sounds like for the first time ever. And maybe I mean, is LeVar Ball going to shake hands with Adam Silver when he walks across the stage? Because I wouldn't be surprised. That'd be
great. That would be fantastic. I would love that. Yeah, that would put him even a step above. Oh man, you're getting my hopes up now. I hope he does do that. And then
it wouldn't be too crazy though. Seriously.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me as much as somebody else doing it. So
I can see LeVar bumping Lonzo, get out of the way, and shaking hands with Adam Silver. It's my moment. Finally, I've arrived in the NBA. No, you haven't.
Do you think? Let me pose this question to you. Just talking about the Lakers or any team. Do you think Paul George or a Jimmy Butler? Or I think the more likely might be Kristaps Porzingis gets moved tonight.
No, the more and more I hear a lot of NBA analysts talk about it, they think it's stupid like I do. And I know you're throwing around scenarios about all the different picks you could get and add some young pieces, but someone I was listening to early, maybe Joe Dumars or someone was saying that, and I don't want to put words in Joe Dumars' mouth. I just one of the guys I've heard talking this afternoon, but they were saying Kristaps Porzingis might have been the best talent overall in this year's draft if he was drafted this year or last year's draft. So point is, you can't keep trading away superstars to get any better. You have to add talent. And that was my point with you about the Boston Celtics. And I think that's eventually why they moved out of the number 1 pick, because they didn't want to mix or really convolute that mix with Isaiah Thomas, which, whether you like him or not, and I think he's undersized too, he is a superstar in the league and showed that this year. You have to add talent. You can't move out a piece to get another piece. It's a wash. So you don't get rid of Kristaps Porzingis. You get rid of Carmelo Anthony and finally start building that team. And I'm also almost convinced that Phil Jackson is not a good executive.
I think I've been convinced of that for a while now. When he signed Carmelo Anthony to a contract that included that no trade clause, that's kind of biting him in the behind right now. So I'm with you there. I mean, I played out some scenarios for the Celtics and Kristaps Porzingis if they If the Knicks could get, the number 3 pick, a couple future number 1s, and like a Jaylen Brown or a Jay Crowder, that's what I posed as a pretty solid deal for New York. And just because if you look at it, the number 3 pick is likely going to be Josh Jackson if they were there. You still have the number 8 pick, which could be Dennis Johnson Jr. or Dennis Smith Jr. or Nitikalina, however you want to pronounce that.
We still haven't got that right, but
we're never going to. I mean, I'm just going to call him. I don't know.
Frank.
Yeah, Frankie boy.
Let's not get too Frank. Which I don't know. How do you? Is he from? Is he from Germany or?
France, maybe he's from somewhere.
It's like, how do you mix Frank with that last name?
I haven't quite figured it out, but he's going to be a solid pro. I can tell you that much. Just watching his tape, I liked watching him. Him and Dennis Smith Jr. I think can ultimately be one of the best point guards in this draft. You hear Fultz and Ball, but those two are no slouches either. So, but if the Knicks could get those guys and then get a couple first rounders next year and the year after that, plus like a Jaylen Brown or a Jay Crowder, I think you're getting multiple starters. So you're getting multiple talent. You are giving up Porzingis, but with what Phil Jackson has done to him and how much he probably doesn't like the Knicks front office right now, is he really going to re-sign once his rookie contract is done? So I don't think he would. But you never know. But if you can get something like that would be quite a haul if Phil Jackson can do it. And I would think that would be a impressive get for Phil Jackson, the executive, something that he hasn't been able to do so far.
No, can I say right now that I feel sorry for Knicks fans because you got a questionable owner who was wild, who had the whole scuffle with who was the former player, Charles. They threw him out a couple of months ago. Charles Oakley. So you had that whole scuffle a couple of months ago. He's always been a questionable owner anyway with some questionable tactics. And you got Phil Jackson at the GM executive level, who's not living up to the hype and apparently nowhere near as good an executive as he was a coach. Then you got Carmelo Anthony, which I think has been, to me, the most overrated NBA player in the last decade plus. He's a great scorer, but he does not bring a winning value to your team. So you were screwed at every level if you were the Knicks. Now you're talking about possibly entertaining the thought of trading your best player, Kristaps Porzingis. Woo, sorry, Knicks fans. It ain't getting any better.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it both ways. I think either way, if they stand pat, they're going to need to show some type of improvement. And can you play Carmelo Anthony next year? Can you have him on the roster? I mean, I think Phil Jackson wants him gone. Carmelo Anthony knows that, so I don't know why he still wants to stay there. Just waive your no-trade clause and kind of get on your merry way to wherever you want to play.
I think Carmelo wanted to make it work in New York, and he may still be holding on to that, but that no-trade clause is handicapping the Knicks franchise bad. Can I just say I tried to start a season in NBA 2K17 with the Knicks, and I could not trade Carmelo Anthony. It's impossible. It's impossible. I mean, maybe to the Warriors. I didn't try the Warriors. Everyone likes to go to the Warriors, so maybe I should have tried the Warriors. But it was impossible to trade Carmelo Anthony because he would reject the trades, and then his salary was so high that no one wanted to take him on. So, just interesting tidbit. If you play NBA 2K17, try it and send me a message of how you did it if you were able to accomplish that. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I just stick to my player, and I rack up more triple doubles than Russell Westbrook. So you can search that up. Take that for data. June 26th.
You might have some competition next year with your boy Lonzo Ball, who they are showcasing now. So trades, just to back up. So we have the trade with Boston and Philadelphia. Boston moved out of that number 1 pick. Philadelphia acquired it. You had the Lakers trade by them moving D'Angelo Russell, Timothy Mozgov for Brooke Lopez and the 27th pick. Yeah, you had Dwight Howard being moved. Were there any picks for this year for that trade?
I don't think so. I think there might have been a future pick included, but it was kind of
number 31 overall. So
this year.
Yeah, Atlanta actually gave up. They must have just been trying to move.
But I mean, looking at who they got, the big man that they got it was Zeller or Plumlee. Was it Plumlee?
Yeah, Miles Plumlee and then Marco Bellinelli and the 41st pick. So they They swap picks 31 for 41.
Yes, and Plumlee's contract, his is pretty large too. So they were trying to get rid of Dwight Howard's contract, I think, but they also took on a pretty sizable contract in Plumlee. And you got to think that, I mean, they just basically gave Dwight Howard away. They did not want him anymore. Which if you're Dwight Howard, your hometown team, you grew up in Atlanta, they don't even want you. I mean, that's got to be pretty bad. And
is he trying to set the record to play for every team in the NBA? Because he's got to be. Yeah. This is at least his 5th team, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the fit in Charlotte with the Hornets. I think they need a big man. Al Jefferson has been, kind of aging and hasn't really been able to stay on the court. But he's become a liability on defense. He used to be a defensive player of the year candidate, and now I don't know whether it's back injuries consistently, but he's become
doesn't seem to have the gas or the motor anymore.
He's Enes Kanter on defense. I mean, it's pretty bad. So, and it's just quite a downturn. LeVar Ball, our boy, chatting it up on camera. As I said, oh, look at that. Yeah, he's talking his truth. Beat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm watching Brother versus Brother rerun right now. Just to set up the NBA Live Draft Show, though, before we actually get into it, we'll have Dylan Davis Tirado, DDT, on this show here shortly. I think Malachi David ran into some scheduling conflicts. I don't think we're going to be able to be joined by him. He had planned to, maybe later, maybe not. Orlando Torres actually has a class tonight he'll be trying to get out of or join the podcast right in the middle of the class, which was my suggestion, which is not the best advice to a student, but, hey, I'm thinking about the podcast. So join us live from class. Hey, Orlando could possibly bring 25 to 40 people on with him, right? Let's just turn his class into a My Fantasy Podcast live NBA draft show.
I'm sure they'd rather want to watch the draft than be in class anyways, so it makes a lot of sense.
Who schedules a class on a Thursday night draft class night? I mean, who does that? So that's the professor's fault right there. But so we'll have for sure DDT, Dylan Davis Tirado, on here shortly to join us. I'm really looking forward to, I think, no brainer, right, Dan, with the number 1 pick will be Markelle Fultz. That's the reason Philadelphia jumped up. There's 2 reasons Philadelphia would jump up. They love Markelle Fultz and want him, or possibly Lonzo Ball. It's got to be one of those 2 guys.
Yeah, I think it's Fultz all the way. I mean, LeVar Ball would have probably an aneurysm on the floor if the 76ers drafted Lonzo. So I think it's destiny, as I stated all along.
I mean, he would go number 1, so your boy would go number 1 in the draft, but unfortunately he's going to Philadelphia, not the Lakers.
Yep. Yeah, cross country, it's not going to work out. So, yeah, I mean, I think we know the 1 and 2, it's going to be Fultz and Ball, but that 3rd pick, Josh Jackson declining that workout with the Celtics makes you wonder if Jason Tatum is going to be the pick. And I put up a mock draft on the site yesterday, and I have Jason Tatum going to the Celtics at 3 instead of Josh Jackson, and he ends up falling to 5 to Sacramento in my mock. So it'll be interesting to see 3, 4, 5 where that plays out. I'm really looking forward to that right off the bat.
I think Boston falls into exactly the player they wanted. Although Jason Tatum is moving up draft boards and mock draft boards, I think the Celtics want that type of player. They want Josh Jackson or Jason Tatum. They want that type of player to add to that mix that they already have, which is something I think they really need, because I'm not a huge Avery Bradley fan, and while Jay Crowder can bring some things to you, he's not what I'll say deep level playoff talent. So to put it nicely, I guess. So they need another punch is what I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think to me, Josh Jackson is more of a fit with the Celtics roster right now. I mean, you drafted Jaylen Brown so early last year, and he's kind of that Jason Tatum role. So it's kind of a question mark if they do draft Tatum instead of Jackson, but I think Jackson fits that shooter that they need in that 2 guard. Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart weren't really cutting it there. They needed that type of shooter that can hit shots and just give you instant offense like that. And Josh Jackson would be able to provide that as a rookie, in my opinion.
Well, before we get too deep, did I mention, well, I didn't mention on air, but I think I mentioned it to you, Dan, my boy, Chris Wallace from the Memphis Grizzlies, who, if you listened to the podcast last week, and if you just keep up with the Grizzlies, you realize they have no picks, but my boy, Chris Wallace, GM of the Memphis Grizzlies, claimed this week that don't be surprised if the Grizzlies wind up with a draft pick tonight. So got something up his sleeve. I've liked when Chris Wallace came over from the Celtics, which is when the Celtics were horrible. I was like, oh, God, not this guy. You can't even succeed in Boston and get free agents to come play for you. How are you going to do that in Memphis? But hey, look at us. We're on like a 7-year playoff streak. Things are going well. We're not winning a title anytime soon, but 97% of the league can honestly say that, and they wouldn't be lying.
Yeah, I think he's done pretty well. I do question that Chandler Parsons contract last year, but besides that, I mean,
well, they fired a whole boatload of doctors over that too.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's good that the owner wanted continuity, keep the front office, and get rid of the doctors. So it makes sense. But yeah, he's done a good job. Anytime in the Western Conference you can do that, it's impressive. So more power to him. And I think his hire of Fizdale was brilliant. I think he deserved a head coaching job for quite a few years, being a Heat assistant. And finally, Wallace gave him that opportunity, and I think he kind of shined in that role.
Look, Spoelstra came in and surprised everybody as a former video coordinator. Of course, he was handed the keys to a pretty shiny Maserati, but he's done well, and he's definitely a strategic and X's and O's guys and just puts the right players the right place and does the right thing at the right time, kind of like we've seen Brad Stevens do with the Celtics. But Fizdale's kind of that mold, and I like his character, man. He's a good guy, and I definitely think this is probably the best coach we've had in a while, and that's saying something. So we've had some pretty good ones, but I really like Fizdale. I want him to just give him time. I want him to stay here, build something, for another 5-6 years, and see what he can do, because I think he can definitely be successful, and I like him a lot. While I'm thinking about it, also, and Dan has a slew of pieces, so check out the website, myfantasysportstalk.com, because all of Dan's draft profiles are up. He's put out several pieces about sleepers, all the top 30 prospects and all that, and I actually released a piece earlier today, which is a very unique and interesting piece, because I'm in a position where I produce live high school sports with the company I work for, and we actually covered some of Malik Monk's games as a freshman in high school, which he attended a school very close to me outside Jonesboro in Lepanto, Arkansas. So that was where he grew up. That's where he started his high school career before moving on to a bigger high school in Bentonville. But we actually broadcast at least 4 games of his freshman year in high school. Full games, folks. The article is up on the website right now, myfantasysportstalk.com. So you can see what an NBA lottery pick looks like as a 9th grader, as a freshman starting at the varsity level. And check it out. Full games. So not highlight packages, actually full games. So check it out.
Yeah, I was able to start to watch some of that, and I think you can tell as a ninth grader freshman, he kind of stands out above the rest. So it's no surprise that he's going to hear his name called early tonight. And if I played like that as a freshman, that would make me feel pretty good on the inside, because I knew I was better than everybody else playing around me.
Yeah, it was clear as a freshman when he was bamming on folks that, he's going to be really good. I don't know at that time we could predict NBA lottery good. Right now, I think he's mocked around 7 to Minnesota. We'll see. I think that's probably about a right range for him. But check it out. Check out also Tubetown's YouTube page and check out all the games that we broadcast there all throughout Northeast Arkansas and West Tennessee. A ton of games there, a ton of sporting events, a ton of community events there on our YouTube page, Tubetown YouTube page. And of course, share the My Fantasy Sports Talk YouTube page right now, because we're about to get into it. The NBA draft is about to kick off with that number 1 pick. I'm really looking forward to number 2 though, Dan. Is it a no-brainer? It's going to be Lonzo, or am I going to have any drama here? Any chance of drama here?
Here's going to be the drama, and in case anybody missed last week's show, If Lonzo Ball is not selected number 2, I'm walking off the set. The set of my beautiful bedroom. So I'm done. I'm walking off. I'm not going to be able to go to bed tonight. And
I've got my Tiger beverage. I've got plenty of time. I don't got to go to work tomorrow, so I got plenty of time to just chit chat and express my feelings. So if Dan walks, let him walk. I would do anything to see the Lakers pass on Lonzo Ball right here.
Yeah, I guess there's going to be drama because I will absolutely freak out, and the listeners and watchers of the show will be able to see a live freak out. Maybe we'll go viral after it because it will not be pretty. I might shed a tear for LeVar and just shout obscurities with random BBBs thrown in the middle. So I hope it doesn't happen. I think Magic Johnson he's a bright man, so he knows what's up. And he's gonna take the future. He's gonna take the destiny, and I think that's also why they got rid of D'Angelo Russell.
Mm-hmm.
Use some Lonzo.
I ain't gonna lie, I like what they are doing right now. So you got Brooke Lopez, solid center position taken care of. I love Larry Nance Jr. They also got Brandon Ingram, who is not even started to shine yet. And then, of course, with the prospect of bringing in Lonzo Ball, you got something working. And I think they're very high on the list of trade destinations for Paul George if he had his say.
I think no matter what, even if Paul George isn't traded this year, he's a free agent next year, and he's already expressed to Pacers management that's where he's going to play. So I think Magic doesn't have to give up any assets. Don't worry about this year. You're not going to win it all even if Paul George was there. But get a year under your belt with the rookies and young players you have. Wait to just sign Paul George next year, and then you go from there and compete again as if you are the Lakers instead of the 1990 Clippers.
Well, and then what did I say on the podcast last week, Dan, is you don't even really want to be really good for the next 3 years because it's going to piss you off because the Golden State Warriors are going to win titles or at least be there. So you really want to be good and peaking in about 2020, 2021. I know we're looking in the future. I know that's kind of boring, but it's the honest truth. Because you also have Cleveland, and LeBron is going to make some moves to be good too. So if you're really peaking in the next 2 years, and then that's going to be the height of it for you, that's going to be your ceiling, your pinnacle, then it's not really doing you much good if you're not named the Warriors or the Cavs.
Yeah. I mean, part of my scenario with the Knicks Celtics trade that I had talked about earlier is, could you imagine if the Celtics trade for Porzingis and then they sign Gordon Hayward in free agency? Is that a team that can at least compete with the Cavs in the East?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there, definitely. I've seen, if you look at it, I think Gordon Hayward is probably the number one listed free agent out there right now. Chris Paul's, a little bit older. You got Blake Griffin. But I don't know. I'm not as high on Gordon Hayward. I don't know. I think it's going to have to be the right fit, definitely. Which, that could be. We'll see. But I don't know. I'm just not as high on him. Do you think he's the most coveted free agent right now?
Probably. I am pretty high on him. I've seen him, play at Butler to develop to the type of player that he is right now. I think he's that poor man's LeBron James. I mean, you don't want to put LeBron James in that type of category, but I'm saying about it where he can fill up a stat sheet. He can get you the points, rebounds, assists.
Here's a name for you, Dan. Keith Van Horn.
Yeah. I mean, Keith Van Horn in his heyday with the Nets, he was solid.
Career didn't last real long, though.
Yeah, no, it definitely didn't. So I think Hayward hopefully has a little bit better shot there, and he's still young. But, he can make his free throws, knock down the three-pointer. So he's got an all-around type of game that I would covet if I was an NBA general manager if he's available in free agency. But he's given up like $48 million if he doesn't re-sign with the Jazz. So that's the question. Does he want to win? Or, $48 million is a lot to give up.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Utah's building something right there. You got a super stud center in Rudy Gobert. I think you got to fill in some other pieces, but that's a lot of money for a young guy like that because this is fairly early in his career to get a big money contract like that. And I'm just not sure that at this particular time in his life and career that you could sacrifice that kind of money to go anywhere else. I just don't know that would be wise, to be honest with you, because let's face it, it is your career number one. I know the hot thing is to win titles and all that now, but some other guys that have done it, like LeBron and KD, once they moved on to join like super teams and try to go after that title, they had already made quite a bit of money and they had endorsement deals. So I'm saying ride the money right now if I'm Hayward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Utah is not a bad place, but I think him signing there, I mean, it is for the money because Utah, even with him and Gobert, I mean, George Hill is only George Hill. Joe Johnson, he gave you life, but is he anything? Alec Burks and Dante Exum haven't really shown to be anything else very special. So they're only going to go so far. They're going to be their goal would probably be the 4 seed in the West, get home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, and that's it. And so I don't know. I think he jumped ship. I don't think he's going to re-sign with Utah, but we will see. I mean, they do have an upcoming team, and it would crush Utah, the franchise, if they don't re-sign him.
Can I give a little plug to our podcast for next week? Because this is going off topic, but before we get really heavily deep into this NBA draft, which I think we're just a couple of minutes away from the first pick, but can I just speak on behalf of Yankees fans and Jackson Borland that since you opened your mouth and we addressed that question on the podcast last week that the Yankees are on, I don't know what they did last night, but prior to at least last night, they were on a 7-game losing streak. So you got some kind of little B magic going on here with the Yankees. So what gives, man?
Playing my pen guitar to Jackson Borland. Yeah. No playoffs for the Yankees, as I stated last week. So I'm confident in my selection. They did win last night, so that kind of ended that 7-game losing streak. But
wasn't that enough? I mean, damn.
They're heading down. Jackson, I hope you're watching.
So they basically lost for a straight week since you addressed that question to the podcast.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I gloated all week to you as well, so it made it even better. So that's.
But hey, can I go back? It's all rhetoric now. It's water under the bridge, and really, since they lost 7 in a row, doesn't make much sense. But that stat you brought up about only played 3 winning teams, I didn't address it last week because I didn't know at the time. But the next day I did research, and at that time, so had your Houston Astros. So go figure.
Well. Better teams win, and the Astros are the better team. Won again today, beating those Athletics that the Yankees got swept by. But anyways, we got the 76ers, I think. Did Adam Silver just step to the podium? He may have put the 76ers on the clock. Yeah. I don't even know. It still says starts in 2 minutes, but we'll see.
Yeah,
he did step up.
A couple more minutes here. I don't know why they're dragging this on, but we're going to go 6 to 9 Central Time, 7 to 10 Eastern Time tonight. The draft may extend a little bit further than that, but I think the guts of it will be over by then. So we'll have a 3-hour My Fantasy podcast for you tonight live covering the draft. Thanks for joining us. If you're joining us live, thanks for watching the replay. If you're catching it the next day, we're going to enjoy it. And I think there's going to be some more trades and some more magic work their way through tonight because you've already seen a few things. And what I was saying on our My Fantasy Sports Talk chat board, I think maybe yesterday we were talking about, Dan, is, you've said the Warriors are bad for basketball. A lot of people have said the Warriors are bad for basketball. I think in this particular situation, the Warriors situation in dominating right now is actually very entertaining and exciting for basketball, at least for me, because I think you're seeing trades like what goes on with the Lakers and what's going on with Boston and Philadelphia. I think it's making teams a little bit looser and a little bit wilder and willing to do more things because they know they have to be radical to even compete with these Warriors or even be in the conversation for the next several years.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you made that point yesterday, it made a lot of sense, and I do agree with that aspect. They have made the offseason a little bit more exciting. And I think the salary cap has a lot to do with that. It went up over the past few years, so we've seen these massive contracts, on the start of free agency. But yeah, these trades and how I think tonight might go, I think it's going to be pretty active. At least I hope it is. But yeah, they have made that more exciting. Everybody's trying to compete with the Warriors and the type of team that they've built. It's kind of a copycat league. You try and match shot for shot. So you got to get those shooters. You got to get those scoring point guards. And that's what luckily this draft is filled with. So if teams are trying to build to the future and they have a superstar on an expiring deal, I think you might see him, dealt tonight. whether it's not even, the big names like Paul George, Kristaps Porzingis, little guys like Tim Frazier got traded from the Pelicans yesterday. So I think you're going to see those type of mid-level players be on the move a lot tonight, maybe shifting contracts for future deals or, for future draft picks. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting in how it plays out.
Going back to my Grizzlies, they've been dealt kind of such a bad blow because the Chandler Parsons deal did not work out whatsoever. And then this is just not a good draft to not have any picks in, right, Dan? This is not the draft to not have any picks in.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first draft that I've actually sat down, watched film, and kind of learned the draft prospects. So definitely check out the site for all the draft profiles, myfantasysportstalk.com. But I mean, this was loaded. I did probably 25 in-depth scouting reports, and there was probably even more that I could have done on players that I know are good, like Dylan Brooks, Tyler Dorsey, to name two out of Oregon that I loved watching in college. I know they can have a chance to have solid NBA careers. They might not be superstars, but solid role players that you're going to be able to get in the second round. I mean, there's some second-rounders. Frank Mason from Kansas. He's a proven winner, a leader that's going to be able to play right away, NBA ready. So you're going to see names go in the second round that I think can make an impact, and it speaks to the depth of this draft.
I was looking at your draft prospects, your top 30 just a little while ago, Dan, and I noticed that you have a couple of guys 20 or lower that you may want to watch out for, may creep up in there for you. Is number one Harry Giles and then TJ Leaf. You had, I think, 20 and 23 or 20, let's see. You had TJ, 20 and 23. So those are a couple of guys that may slip up into that 15th, 16th slot around there.
Yeah, I mean, I know specifically Leaf. I had him ranked lower than a lot of other players. I mean, even in the draft profile I did, I projected him to be drafted in the top 20. I do think somebody is going to, fall in love with his outside kind of range that he has. But he's still young, and he needs a couple years before I think he's going to be NBA ready. Specifically, just with his size alone. I mean, he's a skinny boy who needs to add some muscle if he's going to kind of play outside. And you can say, well, Kevin Durant, Kristaps Porzingis, but I don't think he has that kind of athleticism that those guys have.
Kevin Durant's length could mattered more basically than his scrawniness, I guess you could say, because he had a wingspan of 7, something can shoot up over you, so he's a little bit different story.
Yeah, but similar body types into that type of size. He might not have the wingspan, but just some names that have actually heard comparisons thrown out to Leaf. So I don't think their game is very similar, but he needs a few years to develop before I think he's going to be able to produce on the court.
Well, I think you could say the exact same thing for Harry Giles, because looking at him, he had explosiveness and he has length, but I don't know that he has a body right now for the NBA that's going to be very intimidating. I'm not sure it's going to be, his game is not going to be as forceful translation to NBA right away as it was in college.
Yeah, and just, his injury history scares me. He's had multiple knee surgeries on both knees, so that's definitely scary. And I don't know if many of the people who read my mock draft got this, but I had him mocked to the Portland Trail Blazers just because, they love big men with knee problems. So I had him mock go there. I think it would be kind of funny if they do take another shot, another risk of drafting a big man with knee issues.
I was thinking about this the other day, Dan, which is it's very interesting and something to look back at. So you look back at some of the superstars in the league today, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, 3 of the best top 5 stars for sure in the league, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
None of them number 1 picks.
Yeah.
LeBron was, and you're mentioning Greg Oden, kind of, or hinting about Greg Oden, kind of made me think of that just because you're taking number 1 doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be the best player in the draft. And I don't know. Like I said before, I haven't seen a whole lot of Markelle Fultz in college. I'm saying watch out that in a class this deep, it'll be hard in something if he truly does turn out to be the best player in the draft a few years from now. So, but
yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree to that. A guy that I absolutely love on tape, and a guy that I watched a little bit in college. He pulled down a couple triple doubles in college that I saw, and that's Dennis Smith Jr. He's going to get drafted in that 6 to 10 range. He could potentially be the best player in this draft. I think offensively he has that type of capability and skill set. And on the defensive end, if he can put the effort in, I mean, he just took plays off in college on the defensive end of the floor. But if he can play, then he can be the best player in this draft.
Jason Williams was comparing him to Baron Davis. So
I had him. My NBA comp for him was Steve Francis. So in his heyday, that's before he got all big lipped and methed out. He was pretty good.
So we're going to bring in Dylan Davis Trotto after this first pick and get it started, get his reaction and all that, and get into it. But right now, let's just take Adam Silver and let him take it away.
Kawhi Leonard at 15. Draymond Green at 35.
And as you can hear in the background, Adam Silver is kind of talking about some of those really big stars that were taken very late in the draft.
Of the Boston Celtics. He was selected number 60, the last pick in the 2011 draft. Every pick matters. So let's get started. By way of trade with the Boston Celtics, the first pick in the 2017 NBA draft belongs to the Philadelphia 76ers, who have 5 minutes to make their selection.
So we're not going to get the pick. They fooled us just like the NFL draft did. Just make the pick. And you've had how many days? Like 2 months to think about it. Just make the pick. But I guess
why the NBA salary cap is so high is because of damn TV deals like this and all that revenue.
You're waiting, I guess, for those last second trade deals that might happen, might not. So, but whatever. But we're pretty sure it's going to be Markelle Fultz. So
I did. It was just to hype the site and what we put out in content wise in early November when the college basketball season started. I wrote an article saying that Markelle Fultz would easily be the first pick in the draft, and this was after his first game in college that I watched from start to finish. He just looked like a different animal on that court. His first game was more impressive to me than how Ben Simmons played when he was a freshman at LSU. So, Fultz has the talent to be that scoring type of guard who can, as a point guard, can average 30 points a game and still get you 7 to 8 assists. He's that type of playmaker. So the 76ers pairing him with the type of front court that they have is going to be pretty impressive, I think.
Well, I mean, let's just face it. They're about to have the top 2 number 1 picks in the draft for the last 2 years, which one of them we haven't even seen play yet. And quite possibly on June 26th, the NBA Rookie of the Year, possibly. If it wasn't for just lack of playing time, then Joel Embiid definitely would have been the Rookie of the Year. He was definitely the most impressive first-year player last year. So if he can stay healthy, along with some other pieces like Okafor and what they have, and Rashawn, forgot his last name right now, Johnson, Lewis, I don't know, Rashawn. Anyway, someone I picked up on my fantasy team last year.
Oh, your second-place squad. Yep, I remember them.
Not necessary at all, but thank you, Dan, for reminding everyone at home. Let me see. I had the Sixers depth chart anyway, who I'm trying to think about.
Yes, just so the audience knows, Brandon goes to sleep with team depth charts underneath his pillow every night, just so he thinks osmosis will get them in there.
Rashawn Holmes. So sorry. Yeah. Sorry to possibly any Rashawn Jones or Johnsons out there. Rashawn Holmes is who I was talking about, who had a pretty good fantasy year last year.
Holmesy. Holmesy.
Yep, Holmesy. So you mix that with all their guys. Man, they got to be creeping up further and further into more towards a playoff team than a lottery pick team, right, Dan?
No, they're a playoff team next year, without a doubt. If Ben Simmons stays healthy, I think you're going to see the 76ers. I mean, I tend to fall in love with teams a little bit too early. Speaking of my Minnesota Timberwolves love this preseason, I like them a year or two early because the Timberwolves will eventually be good. But I think the 76ers, in my mind, with Fultz and a healthy Ben Simmons, I don't see the growing pains, so I say 6, 7 seed and upset in the first round.
Dario Saric.
Yeah. He was on my fantasy squad, helped me win a championship.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. All right,
he comes.
Let's hear from Adam Silver.
In the 2017 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Markelle Fultz from the University of Washington.
So no surprise there, right, Dan? That is your number one. I have not seen anyone boldly predict that anyone else would go number one in any mock draft over the past 5-6 months.
Yeah, I mean that's the guy. I think it was pretty obvious just watching college basketball this season. So I like Philadelphia's choice. Definitely a smart one with the type of, like I said, front court that you're building there.
So now that we have our man on the podcast, Dylan Davis Tirado, Mr. DDT himself. What up, dude? Markelle's number one.
Yep, Markelle's number one, and the Knicks are going down.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Let's just get this out the way. Let's just get this out the way right now. Let's just get this out the way. I don't care that we're picking 8th. I don't care. Let's just get this over with.
We got time. Go. We got plenty of time.
I mean, we let's just get this out the way. 2 more years of Phil Jackson. I don't care about this draft. I just know I really want to jump in on this because I can't stand the fact that we don't have a team in the NBA that can't beat the Cavaliers nor the Warriors for the next 5 years. So let's.
Well, not only that, there's a lot of teams you ain't beating DDT.
No, there's a lot of teams I'm never going to be. To be very honest with you, with what I've read today, and I've been reading Dan's draft profiles all week, prepping for this, and then I come on today ready to go, and I'm just reading all this stuff about Phil Jackson falling asleep during a player's workout, his quotes with Al Trautwig on MSG, talking about the state of the team, and I'm just like, you know what? No, just no. Let's just see who we get, because it's not going to be the player that I want, which is Lonzo Ball. Why? I don't know. I must be crazier than Phil Jackson to want him, but I just think he's about to come off the board right now with the Lakers, and he's, in my opinion, one of the best talents I think we'll see if he can separate from, in my opinion, the big baller brand and just be Lonzo Ball, point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers, which I think is a better title for him.
Sorry about that, but I don't. Going back to teams you're not beating, you're after what the 76ers did in pulling off the number one pick, you're not beating the 76ers next year.
No, I will. I don't know about that.
Maybe one out of 4 games, maybe.
The Sixers just assembled their starting 5, and I think that's been something they've been cultivating for the past few seasons.
Since Allen Iverson. Since Allen Iverson, really.
Since Allen Iverson was gelling with them. And I think now with Markelle Fultz at point guard, you set them up with Embiid, Ben Simmons, and I think that just those 3 players alone can really kick them off to being –
They're a playoff team.
They're a playoff team. They're about a 6 to 8 seed playoff team now.
Are the Knicks a playoff team?
If not – I mean, the East is wide open. The East is wide open every year. Honestly, I'll even put this out there. For a while last season, the Knicks were running at 500, and they even had a shot at it till it just bottled out from under.
That was before Thanksgiving, though, DDT.
I understand. It was before Thanksgiving. Don't remind me what happened after Thanksgiving, because that's when I shut off. That's when I shut off the NBA games. That's when I started watching a lot more of the Cavaliers and the Warriors games, just to see how these 2 teams would match up. And thankfully, my prediction was wrong, because I couldn't believe what they did to the Cavaliers this year. That was unbelievable. I didn't see that coming, and that's why it's drafts like these that are so deep, and these teams that just trade and fight and claw their way up for these best players, and they're still going to have to face at the minimum a 3-year wall of super teams, where you have players like Jimmy Butler and Paul George potentially getting traded to the Cavaliers. I mean, it's one of those situations, again, where people were saying at the beginning of last year with the previous draft, lock it up, don't care what happens. We all know who's going to be in the NBA Finals. And pretty evident who's going to be in there next season. Even if Boston picks up the player of the century, I still wouldn't chop it up as anything. But hey, good run. You know.
Let's talk about Philadelphia real quick since they just made the first pick. So Dan, I was just kind of thinking about this. So obviously Simmons now plays the 2, maybe even the 3, because he was listed as a point guard before, and I think the idea was probably to have him try to be the point guard when he was drafted before this year transpired. But so what? He moves down 2, 3, what?
Yeah, I think they wanted him more in that point forward role. I see him as a 3. They still need a better shooter. He's not a jump shooter successfully too much yet, so you can't really play him at the 2 hole. So I see him as the 3. Fultz is the 1. He can occasionally play the 2 when you got T.J. McConnell in there, who's a pretty good playmaker, finding passing lanes. So that's kind of how I see. But they need a serious 2 guard. Nick Stauskas is your best shooter on the team, is not going to cut it. But they got their front court set. You got Embiid, Saric. If you got Simmons at the 3, you need that 2 to round out with Fultz.
Yeah, I think they'll make it work. So, but DDT, do you agree Markelle Fultz was by far and away, or at least the consensus best talent in this year's draft, in this deep draft class?
In terms of the best talent, I'd say when it comes to playing at the point guard position, I would rate him higher. As a player, though, I think the highest player, in my opinion, I had walking into this wasn't actually Lonzo Ball or Markelle Fultz. It was I don't know why his name is escaping now. Josh Jackson from Kansas, small forward. I feel like he's the better player because of his athleticism and his ability to play defense. And I mean, this is beating a dead horse with this statement. The NBA is no longer a league that has consistent defensive players, and I think a player like him that purely jumps into a team as a starter and is only supposed to just shut down their best player, that's something you don't have with a lot of these teams. They're all built on an offensive juggernaut and nothing on a defensive stopper. So that, in my opinion, is the better player to have, which I think Boston's going for.
I think the Lakers are ready.
There we go.
The Los Angeles Lakers select Lonzo Ball.
Lonzo and LeVar, baby. Look at his smile. That's a Lakers smile.
Oh, so yeah. Dan stays with the podcast. LeVar is happy.
Lead, guys.
Look at oh my God, this guy, y'all. This guy.
Des the Kitty likes it. Des the Kitty likes the pick. So it's acceptable. Yeah. We knew what was going to happen. We knew 1-2.
At least Lonzo's the one that gets to walk across the stage. Yay! My baby boy's finally grown up.
This is what should have happened all along. I'm glad Magic Johnson did the right thing, and we're going to see Showtime back in LA.
Oh my gosh! You see the hat? Oh, you see the hat? Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll see what happens. Okay, long way to go. But I think this is probably the best fit and the right pick and the best pick for Magic because, like I said on a podcast previously, Lakers fans probably would have killed Magic if he didn't do this, and LeVar may have physically shot him and killed him. So.
Yeah, no, Lakers fans would not have been happy. That's for sure. I mean, they're getting a playmaker, a guy who's a pass first. The comparisons to Jason Kidd, I believe, are real. I think you're going to get that. And not only that, I mean, ESPN is saying he's an excellent shooter right now. I question that with his release point and his delivery. It's a little bit slow to me. It's not really fast. So I think he might have to change that, and he's not going to be able to score with ease. In the NBA level. I mean, look, he only averaged 14.7 points a game at UCLA, so he's not a scorer. I think he can develop into that way, but he's going to look to pass first. And, if you're adding those shooters around him, it can be a good thing.
So we match him now with – you got your big man now with Brook Lopez. You have Brandon Ingram, who is probably going to be a 3 role. You're 2R3. You're looking at probably getting Paul George. Let's assume that you get Paul George and make Michael Gomez on the website very happy. How good a team is that? Lonzo Ball, Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Brook Lopez. Let's assume next year you got those guys. How good a team is that in the West?
I think you're still clawing a little bit for a playoff spot. I mean, I think you're in the playoffs, but you're not more than a 6 or 5 seed. I think Brandon Ingram still needs a few years. I mean, Lonzo can do a lot, but getting to that 5th or 6th spot in the West is a pretty good accomplishment from where the Lakers were a year ago.
And I hope everyone at home is listening right now. You finally get to hear Lonzo Ball talk and see what his voice sounds like.
You've already heard something.
Diamond-studded necklace.
This team. I feel like this team just got 10 times dangerous, especially if they pick up and be a trade. I don't know how they pull it off, either this year or next year. But starting off already, you have Lonzo Ball at the point, Randall at the 4, Brook Lopez at the 5. That's a solid lineup right then and there. They can pull and plug wherever they want. Maybe Jordan Clarkson jumps in that shooting guard position. And right there, I think you have a good starting 5. You can start.
Let me ask you, Dylan, because Dan is not going to be honest about it. Is there any possibility that LeVar, and here he is a nuisance to that Lakers organization and that locker room? Any chance that he really could be a thorn in Magic's side?
Well, there's one thing that Magic Johnson, if you went back and pretty about the Celtics and Lakers rivalry, and they highlighted Magic Johnson as a person before being a player, he's someone who will smile at everyone, but is very quick to show his dominance as a player and most certainly as an executive. LeVar Ball can talk all he wants. He could say that his son is better than Magic Johnson or any other player that he wants. At the end of the day, LeVar Ball is the father of Lonzo Ball and one of the heads of the Big Baller brand, and that's it. He has no ties to the Los Angeles Lakers in any way. All that his son will play for the team. He'll be sponsored. Put him at the forefront of everything. LeVar Ball is not going to have any impact on what Magic Johnson does as an executive. And if he manages to get that kind of influence in this team, Lonzo Ball will not be going anywhere as a player. And whoa, do you see what's on the ESPN screen right now?
Oh,
Jimmy Butler traded to Minnesota. What?
Gone. And there we go. And here we go.
Wow. And maybe I should jump back on that Timberwolves bandwagon.
Your team just got good.
So I'm not exactly hating what the Bulls got in trade for that either. Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and the 7th pick in this year's draft. I'm not exactly hating what the Bulls got for that.
Yeah, I mean it's not too bad. Butler, next to Kawhi Leonard, is probably the best perimeter defender in the NBA, in my opinion. So, yeah, you're giving up, and that, I mean, just look at his offense too. So, that's a solid get, not only on the court, but that's leadership in the locker room for Minnesota. Something I think they've kind of lacked, and with that young team, he can play with Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. That's a solid team in the West now.
Do you think that, because just by seeing that trade, I'm thinking that Minnesota really wanted to add Jimmy Butler. Chicago was up for possibly moving Butler, but Minnesota may have gave up a little bit more than they wanted to. They probably didn't want to throw in Chris Dunn for that. That's
Thibodeau. It's Thibodeau getting his guy. They were together in Chicago. So Thibodeau knows what he has in Jimmy Butler and how he'll work on the defensive end, and I think that's what Tibbs likes.
So, but that kind of leads me back to thinking about Cleveland and LeBron. Could Cleveland not put together a package big enough for the Bulls to move Butler to Cleveland?
I don't think Cleveland can have a package big enough to get anybody. They can't get pretzel sticks that have been on the ground for a few days. I mean, they have no assets that they can really trade unless it's Kevin Love.
Kevin Love and J.R. Smith? You wouldn't move Butler for Kevin Love and J.R. Smith, maybe?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even touch them. Those are aging guys. At least you got some young guys here that are still growing, and you can grow into your team.
So let's hear what the Celtics are going to do. They move down to the 3 spot.
The Boston Celtics select
Jason Tatum.
So we talked about before the picks, Dan, that I think they wanted that type of player. I really thought it was going to be Josh Jackson, but they went ahead and got Jason Tatum, who was moving up draft boards rapidly, I guess, after these team workouts.
Yeah, I had a mocked going to the Celtics. Josh Jackson declining that workout, I think, really bit him in the behind there. So I think it might be somewhat his own fault, but Jason Tatum is no slouch. I had him comped in my profiles to Paul George, I believe. So I mean, he can develop into that type of player. He's got that cutting to the basket ability, high basketball IQ, and he's a decent passer too. So
the Celtics fans love it.
Yeah, he can definitely develop into that unbelievable superstar player.
So are we going to see 3 Dukies go in the top 20?
It's going to be close. It's I think Harry Giles is your question mark. I think Kennard will definitely go. It's going to be if Harry Giles gets the call or not.
So what do you think, Dylan? They passed over Josh Jackson and everybody else, I guess, for Jason Tatum.
Well, if Phoenix is the next team up, this is the guy they wanted. If they couldn't grab him, they were going to grab Jason Tatum, in my opinion. So
I think they're okay with Josh Jackson. I'm kind of contending that Josh Jackson may eventually be the best player in this whole draft in 2 to 3 years.
I agree. I just think I'm talking about this from just an athletic and defensive ability. There are no players really in this top 10 where these are all freshmen coming out of here. There are no players as athletic and as defensively gifted as this guy is. He was the anchor at Kansas. I really think that if Phoenix can pull this guy in, they automatically become a better team. Now they still have much to do. Like you're going to see a lot of trades happening tonight. I definitely see the Suns making a few of them tonight, trying to move players into a position where they can compete better in the Western Conference, try to get their shot back at the playoffs. But this looks about, it was going to be one or the other. So Jason Tatum, I see Josh Jackson coming off next. And then that's where the mysteries will really start to unravel.
I agree. I think they go more for Josh Jackson and I think they probably pass over De'Aaron Fox just because of the situation that you have with your backcourt in Phoenix already with Bledsoe.
Yeah, I think I had Fox mocked to the Suns. I do expect him to trade either Bledsoe or Booker. You heard those rumors for Porzingis, whether that'll be enough to pry that away, we'll see. But I think Josh Jackson feels more of a need to their team. But just looking at their previous drafts, they don't really tend to draft based on need. They kind of go outside of the box a little bit. So we'll see where exactly. I know Kevin McQuaid, one of our writers on My Fantasy Sports Talk, is going to be paying attention to this one pretty closely. He's a Suns fan, and I think he wanted Jackson more than anybody else. So we'll see what they do. It'll be interesting.
At this point, I kind of think it's one of those situations where you go with the best talent available, and I think it has to be Josh Jackson to me personally, regardless of whether even if you didn't have Eric Bledsoe or Devin Booker. I think you go with the best talent available. And like I said, I think Josh Jackson will ultimately be the best talent in 2 years when you look up and look at these guys in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far, but he's definitely
you like that Pac-12 guy. You love them Pac-12 with them Pac-12 guys, I guess.
Yeah, I would. I like Fultz and Ball over him, and I mean he might turn out to be better than Tatum, but he's. I'm just worried he might be your Ben McLemore type instead of pulling into that kind of superstar role. It might take him a few years. And listen, Ben McLemore was projected to be a solid NBA player, superstar level with his shot and his ability to slash, and we just haven't seen that in the NBA.
Yeah, he's a good scorer, but he's kind of one of the guys who's kind of undersized a little bit to be playing that too and really make a big impact, and just hasn't become a star. But he's a pretty decent scorer. So, but Phoenix, let's see. Kind of looking at the Phoenix Suns depth chart here, of course, with Bledsoe, Booker, they got Tyler Ulis as well. Then you got Tyson Chandler's not going to be playing much longer. Is Alex Len the center of the future for them?
He better show something soon because it's been a while. He was drafted a few years ago, and can't seem to really get a solid playing time with that group, I don't think.
Marquise Chris, TJ Warren, and another guy who was in last year's draft that we thought was one of those guys like how do you know which one of these guys is going to take off? You had kind of these surprises with Dragan Bender and Thon Maker was kind of these reaches, but could be potential stud big men. And
Thon Maker showed up. Thon Maker was pretty solid. He got some minutes in Milwaukee as a rookie, and he definitely had more promise to me than Bender. I think Bender may have gotten hurt. But, yeah, I mean, Maker was a bigger question mark than Bender to me, and he definitely had a solid rookie season.
You just kind of hope if you're Phoenix that he can become that guy. Still young. I mean, I think he's still only like maybe 20, but maybe he can develop into that guy. So he can kind of take over down low. But I think you're actually okay if you don't move those pieces, unlike what Dan was saying to be rumored. But I think if you keep Bledsoe, Booker, and then you add Josh Jackson, I think you're going to be okay. It's about as good as Phoenix can hope for in this age of the Warriors. Let's hear and see.
2017 NBA Draft. The Phoenix Suns select Josh Jackson, University of Kansas.
So you had to, right, guys? No brainer.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Not hard to figure that out. Best player available, and definitely potentially one of the best players coming out of this draft for years to come.
So I'm looking ahead with the Kings having the next pick.
Yes.
I think they got a point guard. I think De'Aaron Fox has to come off the board here.
Yeah, I think that would be a solid pickup for them. But who knows? I mean, the Kings do some odd things. So we'll see exactly who they go. But Fox would probably be number one on the board. I don't see – maybe they fall in love with a Dennis Smith kind of like I have and take a stab at him. But I think you're going to see him go. Maybe a Lauri Markkanen. I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps up some boards. I don't have him that high, but
what position does he play?
He's your power forward, kind of a stretch four type. So I mean, he can bang out shots. I know they have Willie Cauley-Stein and a couple other big guys down there.
Skull Labissiere, another young guy.
Yep. Yeah. So.
I just think they really need a point guard. So you could be right with Dennis Smith. But I think it's probably De'Aaron Fox because I really think they need a point guard. Darren Collison isn't the guy anymore.
Yeah,
Ty Lawson, who really isn't the guy anymore. Yeah, which Dan would know from the Denver days, and that was quite a while ago. You don't really keep up with the Nuggets though anymore, though, right, Dan? That was
ever since they did me dirty by firing George Karl, it was tough for me to stay loyal.
Nuggets haven't been a franchise since Carmelo Anthony forced his way to New York.
Oh no, yeah, they were the number 3 seed before they got out.
They still didn't have an identity,
Their identity was winning home games. They were only had three home game losses that year. Watched every single one of them.
But that didn't get them very far.
Well, if Danilo Gallinari didn't Jersey, see how they would have beat the Warriors. Yes. Let's not get started on 2004.
Oh no,
it was bad. It was a bad time in my life. I turned to Brandon Reed's bottle, and it just didn't go well.
Josh Jackson's NBA comparison by Dan is Paul George.
That was Paul George, right?
Yes.
Tatum. Actually, it's funny because I looked after the fact. Tatum, I had comp to Paul Pierce, which he's a Celtic now.
I've heard that by someone else today too. So you nailed that, Dan.
I'm that good. What can I say?
I agree.
So check out all the profiles on the site right now. I mean, learn about those prospects that your team is drafting. So we're going to have basically all the first round picks covered on the site, so you can get their scouting reports and learn about them.
Dan is the man of draft profiles. This is undisputed truth.
It is. Yeah. Nothing you can say.
Cranks them out faster than I can come up with them.
So after tonight's NBA draft live show, we'll start doing our regular My Fantasy podcast regularly. But this is something we've kind of decided from here on out, folks, for our regular fans, watchers, and listeners, that we're just going to be heavy NFL draft, fantasy draft prep, and some more fantasy baseball for you, because folks have been submitting a lot of questions about that. Hopefully the Yankees can turn it around so we don't get so much heat there. But
and Dylan's a Yankees fan. Oh, he should have been.
Yeah, you missed it. You missed
Dylan,
it.
do you know a Jackson Borland? We're trying to find him. He's in hiding.
He's trying
right
to
now.
find you, Dan. He's trying to find you.
Well, not anymore. Not after that losing streak.
Yeah,
We're
you
still
jinxed
here.
it. He's coming to
We're still
find you.
here. We're still here.
Come at me,
We're still
Jackson.
here.
I'm waiting.
Bad time for bad week for Yankees fans.
No, we're fine. We won last night. We're good. We're good.
Congratulations. That
We
one
can-
when you needed it.
Listen. I have been with this team as a young man. I've watched this team. Yes, I've watched them win a lot. Why have I watched them win a lot? Because, like I said, series titles, give me number 28 when it comes. It's coming. I'm not going to panic, because when we panic, that's when bad things happen. That's when we make stupid trades. That's when we push players in and out of the lineup. No, let's just stay the course. We'll be fine. We'll get players back within the next month or so. We'll be fine. We will be fine.
A lot of people are
Houston
concerned
Astros, look
about.
out. We are coming for you.
People are concerned about your starting pitching and bullpen. Is that not a concern for you?
too.
Okay, there you go.
I am deeply concerned. I'm so concerned. I lie awake at night tossing and turning of how I could jump back into my high school baseball playing days and somehow manage to save this team and be their ace, because Tanaka is without doubt will be probably his worst baseball of his life. And I mean, when CC, and it's so ironic when CC Sabathia finally catches fire to the CC of old. Nope. Hamstring. 6 to 8 weeks. I'm like, come on. If there's one thing we haven't been able to catch, it's a break. And you know what? Maybe we're getting our daily dosage of what it's like to be an actual MLB team that can't always run the course year after year after year. So this is just a time where we're used to this, but we'll bounce back.
It's hard. I think
bounce back.
That's what I said. I think they have too much talent to not make the playoffs unless the bullpen completely falls apart.
If that bullpen falls apart, we're not going anywhere. We might as well chop up and trade as many people as we can and try to salvage for next season if it looks like it's not going to hold out.
Which I think that's the key to everybody. I think Dan can even attest to that. His Astros are only a couple of injuries away from hitting quite a slump as well. I think everybody's in that situation. But
no, disagree. But we'll stick to basketball.
Okay. All right. To be continued, as I was saying, my fantasy podcast.
Oh, we got a trade.
Here we go.
Oh, the 76ers moved up? No?
Let's hear from Adam Silver.
No, that was a trade from last year.
The Sacramento Kings select De'Aaron Fox from the University of Kentucky.
Cal gets another one in the NBA. De'Aaron Fox is the Kings' new point guard, without doubt. He starts day one, right, Dan? Darren Collison he's not. You don't draft number 5 and replace and not start him over Darren Collison, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can see that. I don't know. You might be able to start. I mean, he does have to do some things. I mean, he is basically NBA ready, but he needs a lot of aspects to his game to improve. So he's going to be getting minutes as a rookie, whether it's starter day one. I think will remain to be seen on how that roster exactly fills out. But he has more
killer he has 5 times more killer instinct in him than Darren Collison does. What your comp is John Wall. So if he plays as well as John Wall did as freshman, then Sacramento Kings have to start him. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer here. You have to keep enthusiasm in that squad, and this guy's the guy that's going to do that.
Yeah, I can see it.
So John Wall, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, he needs to become that type of scorer that it kind of took John Wall a few years to become. I mean, not like John Wall was lighting up the score sheet in the points column as a rookie that much. I mean, he was able to get it, but with his speed off the dribble, I mean, he's explosive, so he's going to be able to slash right away. But it's his passing skills that I kind of like. I mean, he is that playmaker. He was able to set up his teammates. Malik Monk, the center Bam, and different guys. So I mean, he's definitely got that passing skill set that I kind of like, and John Wall has, of course.
Yeah, some guys keep their heads up and they have good floor vision. Some don't, and they can't learn it. And he's just one of those guys that does. John Wall definitely does. De'Aaron Fox does. Some guys have it, some don't. So
I love that they're showing Barack Obama playing basketball compared to De'Aaron Fox.
So this next pick is going to be interesting with this trade here.
Now Orlando might trade this pick away for assets. I wouldn't think they'd be interested in throwing this pick into it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be great to pick a player, but I feel like if they trade that 6th pick, there are teams lower that would love to jump up and grab one of these guys, try to level the playing field where they're at in their conferences. So this could be a pick to trade.
I know I've talked to a couple Magic fans today through various social media groups that I'm a part of, and they really want Dennis Smith Jr. That's the guy that they wanted even over Malik Monk, who I thought would be a good fit with Orlando, but they're pretty persistent. They want a scoring first type of point guard, and obviously Dennis Smith Jr. would fill that role. So it'll be interesting what they see. Orlando always seems to also go for the international groups, or Lauri Markkanen might be that type. Although they have an Aaron Gordon, so they have that type of power forward type of player. So. We'll see exactly what they get, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Dennis Smith Jr. here.
So their current starting point guard is Elfrid Payton. They got Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Vucevic is their starting core right now.
Vucevic, yeah. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but I believe it's Vucevic or something like that. You have to put an emphasis on that U.
But I think the thing is they're not really going to be afraid to draft any position, because I wouldn't say any of those guys' job is really safe, right? I mean, none of them are solidified, bona fide starters have to be there on the team next year.
Yeah. I mean, I think their roster is pretty weak throughout. It's gonna take a few years before I think they're heavily competing. So, best player available is the way I would look at their draft board and who they select here.
Which is who to you at this point, Dan?
For me, I mean, I think it's Dennis Smith Jr. He's I didn't even have him that high in my rankings, but I think future potential. It's him.
You had him 4.
Yeah. Okay, so I did have him.
Yeah, you had him picked.
Sure I was pretty high on him. I do like him, so I would go him. If not Dennis Smith Jr., maybe a Malik Monk. He's a true scorer. He can shoot from all over. So those were the 2 guys that I would pick here.
I think Malik Monk could definitely be an upgrade over Evan Fournier. But I also think Malik Monk is versatile enough to even play some point guard for you if you had to.
Yeah. Yep, he does have that. At 6'3", he's not going to be a tall 2 guard either. So he might have to play that point. But I think him with Elfrid Payton next to him, I mean, he's a distributor. He'll crash the lane and pass it out. So I think Malik Monk can take advantage of that for sure. But Fournier is pretty good.
They can go back and
just say that out there.
Fournier is good, but I think we've already seen the peak of his talent in the NBA over the last 2 years.
Debatable.
There's room for improvement. He's a solid starter. But there's one thing I have for you. He's a solid starter. He can start with this team. If they go ahead with Dennis Smith, or however they want to go, Malik Monk, they can honestly go in any direction they want. It would be in their best interest to pick a guard or just any wing player in particular, just for the depth. But right now, as the Orlando stands, picking a player is an option. I still would try to trade for a good player. Like I don't really see where their needs are where their needs are, where this draft could really help them. I just feel like somewhere in the NBA is where the players they need or the picks they need going forward. Because this team is not there yet. You know, they're just not in a position to move forward.
So last year at this time, the 6th pick in the 2016 NBA draft was Buddy Hield. Just for a little nostalgia's sake throwback. Here we go.
Buddy. Oh, there we go.
In the 2017 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic select Jonathan Isaac from Florida State University.
So that may be the first sort of eye-raising pick of the draft. A guy who was probably taken a little bit higher than a lot of people thought, right? Not excessively high, but a little bit higher than people thought. I think that small forward is just a really good commodity in today's NBA.
Yeah, well, I mean, he at 6'10", he's going to be a tall, small forward. I think he projects more to a 4, but I mean, this is kind of surprising. I mean, you're drafting him based on pure potential at this point. I mean, he's not going to be contributing solid minutes as a rookie at all, but he has that capability to become a shutdown defender. Because of his length. I mean, I think he has a 9-foot standing reach, 6'10", size. So I mean, he's definitely got the length to handle it. But he's a defender. He's not. He has absolutely zero offensive game at this point.
So their current forwards are made up of course, Terrence Ross and Aaron Gordon. So. There's potential he could play a little bit next year because I'm looking at the backup power forward for the Magic right now is Jeff Green, Dan. So there's potential he could get some solid minutes next year.
I mean, Orlando's going to be purely based on tanking if that's what their ultimate. If they're going to be playing Isaac some minutes as a rookie, I mean,
do they have much more of a choice? You look at that roster right now; they're not going to be very good. They're just not. They're just not going to be very good.
Yep. So I mean, the tanking is the new thing. So we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, I mean, I guess basketball you play to get that type of experience. It's not like football or a quarterback. If you play them too early, you'll ruin their careers. But it's gonna be rough watching him play. I think right away as a rookie.
So DDT, I think here is a team that your Knicks can beat next year, the Orlando Magic. Despite this pick.
That's one team we can beat because we just realized we're either getting Malik Monk or Dennis Smith Jr. and we need either one. That's okay. Well, let me say this. I forgot. I'm not Phil Jackson. I don't ruin an entire franchise in 3 seasons. If I was running the Knicks, I'd be very happy that Jonathan Isaac was taken. My focus was on Malik Monk just because of the scorer. A scoring guard, and now I will drop it into the triangle perspective of Phil Jackson. Can fit that type of offense as a scoring 2 guard. It's how Kobe thrived in it. It's how Jordan thrived in it. Malik Monk would be my choice if he does not go to the Timberwolves with this pick. That'd be next. If you go with Dennis Smith Jr., well, it then solves the mystery of whether or not Derrick Rose will be brought back to the team. As I'm thinking about the Timberwolves, as they're lined up for their pick right now, you're going to see Ricky Rubio, Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns. And then who's playing power forward for them right now? I believe I can't even think of who could be playing power forward for them. Unless they draft one right now to find out. I know they sent away Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn, which I don't think is I think for what Timberwolves gave up, I feel they got so much more back in return. And actually, forget Timberwolves aren't even picking. It's actually the Bulls that are picking. Excuse me. I feel like the Timberwolves got back everything they needed with that pick. I don't think Zach LaVine or Chris Dunn were a big loss from this team.
I think you traded two pretty good shooting guards for a really good one. So.
I mean, Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, I like that pick for the Timberwolves. Being a fan a year too early, I think they can definitely make some waves next year. Anybody who can guard on the perimeter, like Jimmy Butler, you can neutralize the Warriors' offense a little bit that way.
So, but to answer your question though, Dylan, is the T-Wolves really doesn't have a power forward. technically, Gorgie Jing is listed as their power forward, but I think he's probably more even a center. They could really flip-flop Karl Anthony Towns and Gorgie Jing, so they really don't have that true, prototypical power forward, period. So,
so that means probably when they get picked later down the line, I believe they're probably a forward or a center.
Yeah, maybe a Lauri Markkanen.
Unless they want to pick guard to replenish what they lost.
Yeah, that's true. They could maybe they go with a Dennis Smith because they want to trade Rubio. Rubio's always on the block, so maybe they'll be looking to get rid of him, draft a Dennis Smith Jr. to kind of be that point guard to distribute a little bit to Wiggins and Towns. So that could be an option here. Do they go with another shooting guard like a Malik Monk? I don't think so because you have Wiggins there. It'll be interesting.
and Butler now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you might see him one of the first, besides Isaac, big men kind of come off the board, but will it be Markkanen? I mean, it's too early for guys like Jared Allen and John Collins out of Wake Forest, Zach Collins out of Gonzaga. I think it might be a little bit too early for them, but if you're drafting based on need here, that might be where you go.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking they may go point guard here.
I know this sounds crazy, but just one thing, and they make a trade. Is there also a possibility Kristaps Porzingis could get traded to the Timberwolves?
They're taking a long time. They're taking all of their time. Based on what they've done today on draft day, I kind of think they go point guard with either Dennis Smith or even Frank Ntilikina.
I'm going to get it one of these times. Ntilikina?
DDT. You give your shot, DDT.
Frank Ntilikina.
Ntilikina. I got it. We're good.
That's
now.
the most professional pronunciation I've ever heard, so I'm rolling with that.
The end might be silent. The end might be silent. Maybe Tilikina. Frank Tilikina.
Tilikina. There we go.
It's common in French language, and I'm assuming I have not seen this player, so I do apologize if I missed this up. I believe it's descent. I believe the N is silent, so I believe Frank Tilikina is his proper pronunciation.
There we go.
Here comes Adam Silver.
With the 7th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select.
Oh, wow.
Nebraska, Finland, from the University of Arizona.
So what did we just say, guys? They really had no power forward. Where here's a power forward for you. But is this guy ready, man? Dan? This looks like a very young kid.
Yeah, he's definitely young. He's kind of your stretch four. I mean, he can play the 4 or 5 spot, but he has some decent range to him and good in catch and shoot situations. So I mean, he can probably give you some minutes right away.
Dirk Nowitzki like.
Yeah, I guess you can develop into that. Like my NBA comp to him is Nikola Mirotic from the Bulls.
Okay, there you go.
May have been since traded, who knows? But I mean, he definitely
7 foot.
Yeah, he's not. To me, he's not that rim protector. He's tall, but he doesn't have that wingspan to his game.
Right.
He's
a lot more of a stretch than a post interior defensive presence.
Yeah, and he's not going to give you that power down low to be able to bang with the centers. Although his 7 foot size could play that 5 position.
So I think you're describing Dirk Nowitzki. We'll see.
Yeah, he's going to need to get that shot down a little bit better. I mean, Dirk is a Hall of Famer, so we'll see if he can develop into that instead of Darko Milicic.
Oh, don't talk about that, please.
Darko.
Hey, the Grizzlies even, I know, DDT, I feel your pain, because even the Grizzlies gave him too much money at one point.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I got to ask you this, Brandon. Why hasn't Grizzlies traded into this draft yet?
I don't know that they have anything that they could get into the first round with. The only thing that I think they could.
Conley.
No, he's the heart and soul of the city, man. And here's what we kind of talked about with the Warriors being so good, and even Cleveland in the East. It's like it takes the wind out of your sails because no one else really has a chance in the next 2 to 3 years. We just be honest with it, and no one else has a chance. So it's kind of unfortunate we've got Marc Gasol and Mike Conley under contracts. We got our core there, but it's not going to matter for the next 3 years. It just ain't. So we're just kind of keeping them for pride's sake. It's fun to go to playoff games. It's fun to root for the team, but there's no chance of winning a title for the next 2 or 3 years. But no, he's the heart and soul of the franchise. But it's not to the point where you blow it up or be that drastic. The only really talk here. You can't move Chandler Parsons, although I think everyone in the city would like to. It's just impossible. Paid him way too much money for what he's worth. Zach Randolph, Zebo is just about past his prime for sure, and past the point where he's untouchable for us. And then you got Tony Allen. So I think those only 2 pieces you may see be moved, but you couldn't move into the first round by any kind of trade scenario if you're the Grizzlies. But maybe mid to late second round, they may try to get into it somehow. But it sucks not having any draft picks in this particular draft.
Yeah, that hurts. And I think, if they can somehow just add a scorer or somebody to add offense
JJ Redick.
Yeah, it's some type of player like that, and they had a chance to. I mean, it's a deep draft.
Yeah, we'll see. But here we go, DDT. So who's it going to be?
Hopefully Malik Monk, because that's what we need.
That's going to be an amazing story. A kid from Lepanto, Arkansas. In case y'all can't guess, that's a very small little town in Arkansas to the Big Apple, New York City, playing for the Knicks would be an unbelievable story. I'm rooting for the guy. And like I mentioned before, if this does turn out to be Malik Monk, I project Malik Monk will be taking the next couple of picks anyway. Check out the website, myfantasysportstalk.com. I released an article today that showcases 4 of his high school games as a freshman from East Poinsett County High School, the Warriors, EPC. As a freshman, young Malik Monk was balling then. Full games, folks, via Tubetown from Ritter Communications. Check out the Tubetown YouTube page for all the archive of games that Tubetown has produced over the last 5 or 6 years. But you can catch young Malik Monk as a freshman balling. Check it out.
And just to update some of this, I'm getting some, I guess you would call it hate on Facebook and Twitter right now. The marketing pick is going to Chicago. I didn't realize that. So
yeah, that I was trying to look and question that. I got sidetracked, but with that deal, yes, that makes sense.
Yep. So we apologize.
Oh, you don't. No.
Who they go for?
No.
Oh.
Frank Ntilikina.
Yeah,
Sorry,
they liked him. He was high on their board coming out, and I liked him. He's definitely he's a player. I have him compared to Dennis Schroeder from the Hawks. He's that type of player, but I think he's got a little bit more offensive game to him than Schroeder does coming out.
Nope, not what we needed. I don't mind the pick. Not what we needed.
Well, you wanted Dennis Smith. You still got a point guard.
No. I wanted Malik Monk. I wanted the shooting guard. Sorry, Courtney Lee is not the player we need in an offense. It's so obsolete. No one runs this anymore, but it's all we got to work off of right now.
So what does that mean for Derrick Rose?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking it away from me. Oh, please do not mention that name again. Come on.
Will he be in a Knicks uniform next year?
No, absolutely not. If he is, it's I'm sorry. Can I quote Stephen A. Smith? The audacity of the Knicks actually even keeping him after he was a no-show. I mean, come on. No.
Frank was right about Ntilikina being from France.
This is Derrick Rose's replacement right here. This is Derrick Rose's replacement right here. This is his message to him. Pack your bags, go somewhere else.
At this point, man, I can't even argue with that. I think Derrick Rose had a decent year just to stay healthy enough to actually play as much as he did. But yeah, your Knicks have got a lot of problems. So small town kid from Lepanto, Arkansas is not going to the Big Apple. But who's up next? Dallas. So maybe he goes to Dallas. Maybe Dallas selects our boy Malik Monk.
I think you're going to see Dallas go after Dennis Smith Jr. here. They wanted a point guard. Cuban wants a point guard. Ntilikina was high on the Mavs board. So I wouldn't be surprised as if Dennis Smith Jr. is the big.
let's go with that. And does Sacramento draft 2 Kentucky guys? Would Malik fall then, or would he fall even further?
Shout out to CBS Sports. They had a mock that I looked at today that had that exact scenario where they drafted both Kentucky boys with their 2 top 10 picks.
Not a bad backcourt, right?
Yeah, no, it's solid.
So, yeah, and we apologize to the fans out there. I was trying to confirm that ESPN actually didn't make very good notes of that trade scenario either, but I pretty much knew in the back of my mind that the Timberwolves were drafting for the Chicago Bulls via that trade we just saw. But a lot of things going on. It's hard to put all the pieces together all at once.
Yeah, and that's what the listeners are for. If we get something wrong, let us know, and we'll easily correct it and give you props. I forgot who was the first one to tell me. I can probably pull it up. Patrick Myers was the first one to tell me I'm an idiot. So I apologize.
And I was looking for that, but I didn't get very good confirmation from ESPN either. Looking at
if you're seeing the stat that they're showing on ESPN right now, this sums up what the next about that.
I don't know what this means though, DDT.
Yeah,
I don't know where that even comes from.
Scare me with numbers.
Where's the other 20-something%?
Potential is a lot higher than that.
Where's the other 20-something%?
That's what I'm wondering.
What's in between? What's middle ground here?
No. Look, let's move on. We don't need to talk about this anymore. Let's just move on. There are 31 others. There are 29 other teams.
It also says, if you look there, all-star potential is his 14% is the best in the draft.
So he's either going to be really good or really bad. Oh, that's a great thought.
So going on to the Mavericks now, did you guys just see that? Have the Mavericks really not won a series since they won the championship over the Heat in 2010, 2011?
Yeah, I mean, I can believe
that's
they
a
gutted their
shocking
team.
statistic.
They gutted their soul for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, they won that chip, but
it's been bits and pieces.
Kind of surprising that not many free agents have been lured there by Mark Cuban. So you would think that they would be big players, but I guess they're not.
I think it's just the fact that team, after they beat the Miami Heat, stayed together. And then they brought in Darren Williams, who was a hometown favorite, thinking that would gel them forward. And they just haven't really put it together yet. Maybe right now this is the time where they can start up. But looking at that lineup right now, it's nothing to really smile at. You have Harrison Barnes, Nerlens Noel, Dirk Nowitzki. That's really it.
They need a point guard. Seth Curry's listed as their starting point guard right now. This has got to be Dennis Smith Jr., right?
Yeah, Dennis Smith Jr. definitely comes off the board right now, and that's going to be their starting point guard from day one. They have no one else to play that position but him.
Question, guys. Does Dirk Nowitzki ever play for any other team in the back end of his career? This probably is his last year, right? It's got to be, right?
No. He's he'll go down in history, Dallas. He'll never leave. If he had the option to go to another team, and I don't know, unless it was only to win a championship, who knows if he'd even get any starting time.
Well, he was offered a contract last year by Golden State, and it was a pretty sizable one, and he ended up turning it down. So
he didn't really have any fantasy value last year either, did he, Dan?
I don't know. I only draft champions, so
I don't think he did. Here's Adam Silver.
With the 9th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Dennis Smith
makes sense.
from North Carolina State University.
Yeah.
Love that pick.
Yeah, smart pick. You may have 4 or 5 teams kicking themselves in 2 years that they passed up on Dennis Smith Jr. if some of the NBA comparisons from the analyst and Dan Schalk is correct. And I'm sorry, who did you have again, Dan?
So he was my 4th ranked prospect and Mr. Franchise, Stevie Franchise.
Steve Francis. Yep.
Before the math. Before the math.
oh man.
6'3", 195. And so let me ask you the same question again, Dan. This guy starts day one, right? He's better than Seth Curry, right?
Oh yeah, no, he's a starter. He's a playmaker day one. I mean, he's a walking triple double in a couple of years. He's like a Russell Westbrook type. If he can get a little bit more consistent with his jump shot, I wouldn't be surprised if he averages 30 points a game in a couple seasons. So he's got all the skills. It's just the effort, the hard work. He kind of got a little lazy at NC State, and probably one of the reasons why Mark Gottfried got fired there midway through the year. So they underperformed, but he is a talent that Dallas just couldn't pass up.
So Harrison Barnes, Dirk Nowitzki, Nerlens Noel, Dwight Powell played significant minutes. Wesley Matthews. No one else really to mention that played significant minutes for them. So big opportunity for Dennis Smith.
Roster. They have some pieces there. They just need that I don't know, veteran. They're kind of
glue almost. It just didn't seem to make sense last year because you're right. They had some pieces. I mean, Dirk didn't even play bad for a 40-year-old, and then Harrison Barnes is a stud that can provide you different things, but I'm not sure what he can provide for you mixed well with their chemistry. And then again, the backcourt was just not very strong.
What's that player that caught fire for Dallas last year?
Yogi Ferrell.
I had him on my fantasy team.
Yeah, Yogi Ferrell.
I remember his name.
Yogi Ferrell.
Yogi Ferrell. That's another player. I don't know if he's into a sophomore slump. I don't think that was his rookie season, though. Was that his rookie season last year?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless he's on a sophomore slump, I don't know how I forgot about him. I think he could be someone that could pair with Dennis Smith Jr. They could do some good damage in that backcourt because the front court's set. What they can do in terms of putting a team together, whether they do in free agency and the trades is up to them. But right now, I think that's a solid pick. Dennis Smith Jr., Matthews, or Yogi Ferrell. But that's who I would be picking as my two guard.
So I'm very interested here, and Jay Billis says the next best available talent is Malik Monk. If the Sacramento Kings go with the two backcourt mates at Kentucky, with already drafting De'Aaron Fox and then going for Malik Monk, that would be something crazy.
John Calipari would be a Knicks or a Kings fan, and I think you would automatically start to hear those rumors of Cal going back to the NBA to draft to coach his boys, which you always hear. It would, if only they didn't trade DeMarcus Cousins.
That's what I was about to say. If only they still had DeMarcus.
But they have Skal Labissiere, right? So
they do. So
he was another Kentucky guy. So they're stacking up on some Wildcats.
That's a question though. Is Willie Cauley-Stein another embodiment of DeMarcus Cousins, or is he just he could be that same player if not greater? So. Who's to say, and I know this is sounding crazy, but Sacramento Kings, if they draft Malik Monk, they find themselves with a lot more chemistry in the team with two backcourt players who know how to play with each other. They know how to play off each other.
They could, Gillett, you just made me think of something. If it all works out, they could have potentially 4 starters from Kentucky on their team next year with Willie Cauley-Stein, Skal Labissiere, De'Aaron Fox, and Malik Monk, if it works out that way.
It could work. I think this can work. I think it can work if they select Monk. I think it's a solid pick. I think it's a smarter pick to make. And from there, I think Sacramento, it's in their hands what they want to do.
And then Tyreke Evans was actually he was a Calipari guy, not a Kentucky guy. He played for Memphis, but he was another Calipari guy.
Yeah. Wow, this Calipari rumor just sounds better and better of him coming back to NBA as you go through this this depth chart. Just the lineup alone is full of players he knows. So,
it definitely is. It definitely is.
You never know.
I think he needs to stay put. I think there's just some guys that need to stay in college. But I honestly didn't think Brad Stevens would work out in the NBA. I really didn't.
Look how successful he's been.
That dude just got a brain for basketball.
I remember him coming up with Butler and just watching them go at that NCAA tournament. And I literally became, for like 2 years, the biggest Butler fan of all time. I wanted them to win so bad just because I admired the story and that this guy, I think he worked at a bank and coached as a part-time job. And he took a team to the NCAA tournament. And I think that perseverance is what he threw into the Celtics, because look what they had to endure for an entire season. I think he's a great head coach.
So they're given the details of that Bulls-Timberwolves trade. Again, Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn, along with that number 7 pick by the Bulls, or by the Timberwolves, go to the Bulls. And the Timberwolves will get Butler and like the 17th pick or something like that. I forgot.
Trailblazers moved up.
16.
So the Trailblazers got 10, and the Kings get 2 more first-round picks.
Is this the Trailblazers pick?
So they don't need a shooter. They don't need.
Well, there goes our possibility of the Kentucky backcourt. We'll see.
Yeah.
With the 10th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select Zach Collins from Gonzaga.
Big man.
But the rights are going to Portland. So it's going back to that trade we saw earlier. In the parentheses, I believe this is the player that's being drafted for the trade to Portland.
Yes, this is Portland's pick that they're going to receive from Sacramento, my fantasy podcast, Smarty Pants. So the Portland continues their theme. They like big men, and I really like this guy. I think he's probably 3 years away from reaching full potential, but I really liked his game last year at Gonzaga.
Yeah, I mean, he only played 18, 19 minutes a game, if that, so you really had to look out for him if you wanted to see him on the court in Gonzaga. There wasn't a lot of tape on him that I could really get to, but from what I saw, he definitely has that capability.
They had 6 NCAA tournament games. You could start right there.
Yeah, but he didn't play a lot in them. I mean, it's really only when Karnowski got in foul trouble that you saw Collins on the floor for a consistent amount of time. So, I mean, you had a great big man ahead of you at Gonzaga. I actually had him comped to a Myers Leonard, who played with in Portland, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, he's still a few years away. He needs some development, but he has that potential to become something special.
Probably plays more of a 4 role in the NBA, and that would be okay, I think, with Portland right now because their starting 4 is Mo Harkless.
Yeah, he's a 4. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Being compared to Bill Laimbeer.
Jusuf Nurkic is their starting center, so I think you're good there. And then if Zach Collins can develop and be a pretty good 4, then you're okay. I'm just wondering how long they're going to keep this backcourt together of Lillard and McCollum.
Yeah, I think a while. I think they're locked up for a little bit, aren't they?
Damian Lillard's contract doesn't end, I believe, not next season, or does it end in 2019? He shouldn't be a 2018 free agent.
I thought McCollum just re-signed last year.
Yeah.
McCollum re-signed last year, I believe, on a 3-year deal. He had the option to opt out the 4th year. I believe that's a player option that he got.
I'm just saying you're kind of missing an opportunity here to not be really good. But that's the thing about the Warriors killing a lot of these teams, and just it's a shame because even if you do put together some good chemistry, to have a really good team, it just almost doesn't matter. But I do like this pickup. So obviously Portland wanted him pretty bad, right?
And
I'm not sure the Kings would have drafted him to keep him. So I think Portland wanted Zach Collins pretty bad and knew that he probably wouldn't slip to 15.
Yeah, it's obviously a guy they zeroed in on, and I like the trade for the Kings. Now you get 2 more first-round picks, still no later than the 15th, I think. 15 and 20. So, I mean, you still have a chance to get some contributors as a rookie. So I like the deal for the Kings as well. And when will the Malik Monk slide end? Because he's going down, and Hornets on the clock. Do they need a shooting guard? I mean, they have Kemba.
Hornets need a lot.
They have Kemba. They have the big man Dwight Howard now.
Who's their shooting guard? Is it Batum? Who?
Oh yeah, Batum. Yep, Batum's on the roster. So,
but anyway, Dan's comp to Zach Collins, Myers Leonard, huh?
Yep, big Myers out of Illinois. You're
stroke the 3. He was a Portland Trailblazer. Way to go, Dan.
It's kind of weird how that works out, but I think Malik Monk. I would say he's probably the pick here. I mean, the Hornets don't really need anybody in the front court, but they have Batum, who can also slide to the 3, which gives Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, on the bench a little bit. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where the Hornets go here. They can really go anything besides point guard, I would say.
Last year, your number 10 pick in the 2016 draft was the guy we talked about earlier.
I think Malik Monk is exactly what they need, because they can go small ball.
Yeah, small ball is the trend. Who was the 10th pick, Brandon?
Thon Maker last year.
Big Thon. So we'll see. That was a reach then. Maybe they'll reach now.
I think one thing also to mention with the Hornets is this is kind of an opportunity for them to kind of adopt a bit of a small ball technique. I think moving Kidd-Gilchrist to the 4, having Nicholas Batum play back at the 3, you pick up a shooting guard, Malik Monk, you play the 2 position, and I think that with Kemba Walker and who they have at center, I believe, is Tyler Zeller.
Dwight Howard now.
Their center. Oh, Dwight Howard, that's right, because they made that trade. Was there anyone at that strike lineup then sent to Atlanta, or was it just Dwight Howard just brought in?
I don't recall.
Bellinelli went to Atlanta.
Who was it?
Bellinelli and or was it Plumlee? Bellinelli and Plumlee.
Miles Plumlee and Marco
and Plumlee
were sent to Atlanta.
Wow. Yeah. So Dwight Howard with that. So Dwight Howard pretty much paired with Walker, Malik Monk if they select him. Batum and Kidd-Gilchrist, that's a good team.
And Marvin Williams is their power forward. So
that's a good team.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what I do if I'm Charlotte here.
Yeah, I think you got really whatever you want to do. You have a lot. You have a variety of options. Pretty much just take whoever the best player is available.
I think you're good at 1 and 5. It's in between 2 through 4 that you could possibly use an upgrade at. Because while I'm not very high on Dwight Howard anymore, he's definitely your starting center and will be. But I like the fact that Cody Zeller could back him up. So I think you're okay there. And then Kemba's your starting point guard. No need to mess with that.
Yeah, I just wondered, at these picks, sometimes those freak athletes kind of get drafted and jump up. So maybe a guy like OG Anunoby, Dylan, you'll have to help me on that one. But the small forward out of Indiana.
When I see
it's Anunoby, Anunoby, something like that. But he's one of those freak
Justin
athletes.
Jackson.
Yep.
Anunoby.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Anunoby. So a guy like that, I can see moving up maybe a little bit here, or if you want to stay defense, because he's going to be a defensive presence. Another guy, Donovan Mitchell, shooting guard out of Louisville. He's going to be more of a defender than have an offensive skill set. So if you want to go offense, I think you have Malik Monk, maybe even a Luke Kennard. But
let's find out.
2017 NBA Draft. The Charlotte Hornets select Malik Monk.
The slide ends right there.
Smart pick.
He fits perfectly right where they need
Malik Monk.
Very smart.
Yeah, I think Michael Jordan did the right thing there. Went with the best player available, and you pair him with Kemba Walker in the backcourt, Nicholas Batum. You got some shooters now. So Charlotte for a while there was good last year. I mean, they had a pretty solid record before it kind of fell off, but I like their starting 5. Pretty solid.
Well, and you also said go with that freak athlete. I know Malik he's probably closer to 6'4" than 6'3". I don't know. He's around 6'4", but he is a very good athlete. He is a very good athlete. So he'll be able to run the floor with Kemba and be very exciting now, especially you mix in Dwight Howard with that Hornets team. So I think this was a situation where they just picked the next best talent who they thought. And honestly, I think Malik fell a little bit further than he probably should have, especially with Portland moving up and some other things that happened within the first 10, 11 picks.
Yeah, I think it worked out in the Hornets' favor for sure. I mean, if you said Malik Monk was going to be the 11th overall pick, I said that would have that's a slide, and I think they're getting a great athlete at this selection, still in lottery, and that shows to the depth of this draft. Where he's being. I mean, ESPN is saying he's the best shooter in the draft. I have him up there. So he's lights out. If he catches fire, he can go on scoring rampages as he did at Kentucky a couple times.
Can get up the floor like really good. His fast break offense is really what I highlighted the most. When this guy can get out in front of the ball and get out in front, whether it be as a ball handler or the player receiving the pass, he is prolific, man. This guy can really move up the court, and it gives honestly, if like you said, Dan, if this guy catches fire, he doesn't stop. This takes a lot of pressure off Kemba Walker to be a scoring point guard and more of a distributor where his strengths are, and to just be a all-around better player. I think playing beside him, it takes so much pressure off of him, and he can really grow a lot more. I think the Hornets just picked up a guy that might just turn this team around, but it's the start of something good. I think Michael has something put together quite well here.
Dan says Lou Williams comparison.
ESPN had the same conclusion.
Copiers.
Yours was out first, Dan.
Uh-huh.
First, Dan, you can talk to ESPN and tell him, hey, you better put a at Dan Schalk.
I was looking
put a hashtag on that.
I was looking for Charlotte's first pick. It wasn't until 22 last year, and they drafted Malachi Richardson.
Yeah, that was ugly. Pistons on the clock right now.
Frank Kaminsky a little later.
Oh, yeah. With the Pistons on the clock, I know last week on the podcast we got quite a few Pistons questions. A lot of Pistons fans have watched the show. I think Donovan Mitchell's going to end up being the choice here. I would have said Zach Collins, but with Portland trading up, that could be why Portland traded up, because I think Collins was pretty high on Stan Van Gundy's draft board. But yeah. Donovan Mitchell, I think, is going to be the pick here.
I would think at the 4, I think the power 4, I think would probably be their option. If they wanted to strengthen something on the team.
So
Jay Bills is highlighting shooting guards as top 2 players.
My Fantasy Sports Talk has a lot of Pistons fans apparently and been flooding us with questions. We tried to address some of those last week on My Fantasy Podcast. So kind of the moment you've been waiting for, and I do agree with Dan. I think I saw several different places that Stan Van Gundy was high on Zach Collins. So no chance of that now.
No, but Donovan Mitchell grew on me. I didn't know too much about him. He didn't stand out to me whenever I watched Louisville games last year. So I didn't know too much about him going into some of the film sessions that I had watching him. But he's automatically going to be kind of that lockdown defender on the perimeter. I had him comped to Malcolm Brogdon of the Bucks, who I think will end up being the Rookie of the Year this year. But he can play right away, and he can lock down that 2-3 or even the point guard position. So he's one of those high character guys, and I think Silver's coming up to the board.
With the 12th pick,
that's just bad awareness.
With the 12th pick in the 2017 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard.
Wow.
They went shooting instead of defense on that one.
So that does surprise me because, as Dan was just saying, and he had sold me that a lot of mocks had Donovan Mitchell going to Detroit. Well, not the case. They're going shooting is the Pistons.
Which is
look at that stat.
I think that kind of tells you that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, if he's highly sought after in restricted free agency, the Pistons probably won't match. And the Nets are supposedly high on KCP. So if that happens, I don't expect to see him retained in Detroit.
I completely agree.
Scored more points in high school than LeBron James.
Which we talked about. Are the Pistons – wow. Are the Pistons kind of in rebuilding mode? What happens now? I think you're okay at this particular point giving up KCP and inserting Luke Kennard and seeing what he's got. You're okay. It's going to be okay.
I think that if you do decide to pull Caldwell Pope from the lineup, you get yourself a good six-man in either player. And then you just got to see what you got. I don't think Detroit's in a rebuilding phase. I think this team, despite their record, this is the lineup. This is what they have. they have to build with what they have. If that means shifting Luke Kennard and Caldwell Pope into the lineup together, moving players around, shifting in with free agency. But right now, Detroit can't be in a rebuilding mode because the Eastern Conference is wide open right now as it's ever been. We don't have a consistent row of teams. This conference changes. Detroit can play their way in. Definitely have other pieces they need to add into the team.
Do you think the East is wide open, Dan? I think DDT is just a little bit optimistic for his Knicks. I don't think the East is wide open. I think there's two teams.
I never said I was wide open for the Knicks. I said it's a wide open conference. I never said the Knicks have a shot in it. I'm just saying the Eastern Conference is wide open.
I think you're being optimistic in case your Knicks do anything, but I don't think the East is wide open.
Optimism is a good thing to have. This is a very negative time to be an NBA fan. You have
Cavs in Boston.
Absolutely dominate
everybody else.
Entire section of this team.
Cavs in Boston. Everybody else is playing for participation trophies.
Yeah, and I don't even think Boston, unless they get Gordon Hayward, I don't have Boston really competing with the Cavs. I mean, we saw them in a series. To be honest, it wasn't really that close, in my opinion. I think Isaiah Thomas had a career year. I don't expect him to repeat that at all.
Not without help.
Yeah, I think he's proven to be a good enough star that you have to keep him. You're not going to get any better by getting rid of him. I don't know what you bring in for trade value. You have to add pieces, but they have so many first-round picks over the next couple of years that they have a real legitimate chance to do something because they could be peaking and really growing as the Cavs and the Warriors are coming down. So I think they're in pretty good situation going into the future.
Yeah, I would rather see them flip those picks into assets right now if Al Horford isn't going to be around forever and Isaiah Thomas is getting close to 30. So I think the time is now to flip those picks and get those type of superstar players to compete. But we'll see what they do. They definitely have that stockpile of assets. Danny Ainge just hasn't pulled the trigger to get a real star. All he's done is continue to stockpile draft picks. Eventually, you have to turn those draft picks into players.
Well, I think the one thing, though, and I something to throw in is just that when you think about a first-round pick in the NBA draft, its value, it's hard to measure because if you compare it to a first-round pick in the NFL, obviously a first-round pick in the NFL is more valuable than any pick you could probably have in any of the major leagues we have in this country. First-round picks, I feel like in the NBA are few, or there's plenty to get and there's plenty to choose from. Boston's stockpile picks with two philosophies in mind they can go with. They can either be, as Dan said, turn those in the league right now that are high-impact players that would put them in a level playing field with Cleveland and or Golden State. Or, and this is kind of my thing on it, and I feel like Danny Ainge is going to kind of settle with what he has, build with the free agency that they can use with the money they have, and use those picks as a means of, dividing the team with youth. Because as you said, Isaiah Thomas is approaching 30. Al Horford may be in his last two seasons. They may rebuild through the drafts of the years to come. So there's two philosophies the Celtics can go with.
The Nuggets are on the clock, Dan. So, you've somewhat kept up with this team recently, but looking at their depth chart, they got a lot of work to do. They just do. I'm not really particularly high on anyone. So.
Oh, Nikola Jokic. That's who.
Yeah. Agree.
Good selection.
There you go.
I like that pick.
So there's your shooting guard. I was just saying, Jamal Murray is okay, but yeah, Nikola Jokic. But Kevin Fareed, I think his stock is slipping by the day pretty much. Danilo Gallinari, he's okay. Gary Harris, I don't like at all at shooting guard, to be honest with you.
Not a fan.
And then Jamal Murray. So I think that the Nuggets probably made the best choice here.
Yeah, I like the pick. I mean, as I had mentioned, I just talked to Mitchell up, thought he was going to the Pistons, but they're getting a defender who's going to be able to play right away, as I said previously, a Malcolm Brogdon type. So he can give you a little bit of offense, but his main goal is going to be defense. And when you have that type of perimeter force, I think it's going to help that team. And I'm very high on Nikola Jokic. I think he's a future MVP in the NBA. I really do. I think he's got it all, and he's only going to continue to develop. So if he can stay in Denver, they have a bright future.
Definitely one of the best players in the ACC conference. Definitely. It's not the best player that came out of there.
So I was just looking at some tweets by some 76ers about the Ball family, taking shots at the Ball family, y'all, just for a little bit of entertainment value here, is that Ben Simmons tweeted out after the pick, crazy pills. Joel Embiid says, please dunk on him so hard his daddy runs on the court to save him. So are you telling me that the Ball family is not very well received in the NBA already? 76ers don't appear to like them too much.
Yeah, well, when the Lakers are holding up trophies and the 76ers aren't, we'll see. And I have more confidence, despite the 76ers roster, I have more confidence in the Lakers putting a turnaround, mainly because they can attract those free agents that Philadelphia just can't. So you better stay off Twitter, Embiid. He keeps going at Rihanna and all this stuff. He needs to keep his keyboard fingers alone.
I bet Philadelphia has a better record than the Lakers next year, unless they get Paul George. Then we have to talk about
I agree.
A different scenario.
I think the 76ers are an up-and-coming team. I predicted them in the playoffs.
I love it. They're gelling. They got the #1 pick in the draft. Watch out. They have a love or a hatred for the Ball family. I just fell in love with these guys.
Yeah. I don't know where those tweets are coming out of. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Philadelphia needs to sit down and just get to work.
You're wearing a Knicks jersey. What are you talking about? Or is that a Mets jersey? But anyway.
And listen, and there's no one who doesn't like the Lakers more than me, but I also have to speak from a perspective of this is not the Lakers are closer. I mean, in what way can we say that the Philadelphia 76ers are any closer than the Lakers are? I don't think they're even equal.
If you're talking about winning a conference title, the Lakers aren't closer. I think the 76ers are a lot closer to catching Cleveland than the Lakers are to catching Golden State.
No one's any closer to catching Golden State. You saw what they did to Cleveland alone. Cleveland is admitting over the past few weeks that they're not even close to beating Golden State. So that I agree with you there. But at the same time, the 76ers in Cleveland are certainly not going to get any closer. So sit down and get to work, Embiid. I don't know what he's tweeting. I don't know what Ben Simmons is tweeting. You haven't even played a minute in the NBA yet. As far as I'm concerned, you're still a rookie. Let's see what you got.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Let's see what you got. But I love the drama. I love the drama.
So here's even a more interesting thing to think about, guys. Who's going to win?
Nuggets just traded Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, so that didn't last long, as I thought they were needing a shooting guard. That didn't last long. Who was the trade? I'm sorry, I missed it.
They traded him to the Jazz for Trey Lyles in the 25th pick.
Is that a big loss for?
Trey Lyles, I guess he had a decent rookie year last year, but
doesn't address your need for a shooting guard, though.
Yeah, that's I don't know.
Guys, Ben Simmons didn't play. He'll be eligible for Rookie of the Year next year. So that kind of has me thinking, who wins Rookie of the Year next year? That is going to be a race.
That is a race. There are a lot of good players that came out of this top 10. Yeah, Ben Simmons now being thrown into it. Oh, this Rookie of the Year race is going to be great. This is a time to watch the NBA right now. Watch what these young kids can do. This is a time to watch.
Well, it's kind of a weird thing, though, because it's going to be kind of the Steph Curry and Kevin Durant scenario where I don't think either one of them is going to win MVP because they kind of cancel each other out. I don't think either Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz is going to be able to win Rookie of the Year because they're going to have to share the ball with each other too much.
Lonzo Ball seems to probably be the forward thinking the guy for Rookie of the Year. But
Josh Jackson might get a lot of run with the Suns.
I think it's going to be Josh Jackson.
Yeah, I can see that.
Is Josh Jackson a scoring type of forward, you think, though? Is it strength in scoring or is it strength in defense?
Well, on the Suns, if Devin Booker will pass the damn ball, possibly.
Yeah, don't let him get Russell Westbrook syndrome.
Yes. What did he score? 68 points in a game?
But I think Josh Jackson is the type of player where he'll make plays off the ball enough to get his.
he'll get his share of points, but I just feel like the rookie of the year, it's going to be focused on how many points did you score, how many assists did you get. You know, pretty much.
So
hey,
what?
the ball, you want this?
What does the Heat need, guys? They're on the clock here, about to make their selection. What do they need?
I don't
Point
know.
guard.
Well, they got Dragic, right?
I like Dragic. I like Hassan
Not
Whiteside. I'm not real crazy about Luke Babbitt as their starting power forward.
Do they go? What I would like to see is a Caleb Swanigan. He's already
There
got
you
that
go,
offensive
Dan.
game.
Bam. Dan just caught it. Love it.
John Collins. John Collins is also. I kind of been thinking about him right now at Wake Forest. He's a player that could definitely snag, and that would fill out that Luke Babbitt power forward position pretty well.
Yeah.
On the board, but I think I don't maybe he's not the best power forward on the board. I know there's a lot. I know the guy at Kentucky. His name out of Kentucky is also really good.
Well, Dan has.
I think power forward should go.
Dan has Caleb Swanigan as the 13th prospect, so you missed it possibly by one. We'll see, Dan.
Yeah, I think he's going to be drafted later. I had him a lot higher than a lot of other people, just because I think a lot of NBA teams view his ceiling as kind of already been met. He doesn't have a lot of potential. What you see is what you get.
Would this not be good for the Heat, though, honestly? I think it'd be a great fit for the Heat.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I think Swanigan could fit in anywhere.
Let's
Here
see.
comes Silver.
With the 14th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select
Adebayo.
Bam Adebayo from the University of Kentucky.
Power forward. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the guy that Dylan was talking about. I was not very high on Bam. I don't even know if he made my top 30 rankings, to be honest with you.
I don't think he did. When I was going through it this week, I did not see him.
Yeah, I don't think he made it up. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lot of tape on him. I focused on a lot of the other Kentucky guys. Was able to see him just by watching those. But he didn't come off and show himself too much. I mean, he has some skill, but I think pick 14 is definitely early when you have a lot of other power forwards. I would even take a TJ Leaf over Bam Adebayo.
That's what I was about to say. Caleb Swanigan, TJ Leaf, Bam Adebayo.
I mean, Harry Giles.
I would have selected John Collins, honestly.
Jarrett Allen out of Texas, OG Anunoby out of Indiana. I mean, I had a lot of guys higher.
Semi Ojeleye.
Yep, yeah. I mean, there's a ton of guys that I would take over even Justin Jackson. I think Justin Jackson would have been a nice fit in Miami. Yeah,
I think he's maybe fits more of a 3 possibly, and that's what I'm scared of because they have so many 3s right now. Does the Heat?
I wouldn't consider him a 3. I think he is a solid 4 because of the height and the length that he has, and he has more of a post play ability, I think, than more of a wing player. Even though he can, dribble somewhat, but I think it's a solid pick.
I think they're going basically more based on freak athletic ability potential right here, and the potential is there. I'm not sure the skill set is exactly quite yet.
And they hit on Whiteside, so I guess maybe they're they think they can untap that type of potential.
Where did Whiteside come out of for 10 bonus points?
He came out of.
Was it VCU?
I thought was it Creighton or I don't know why Creighton's jumping in my mind right now. That's the first school I thought it was Creighton. If I'm right, oh man, where are my 10 bonus points?
Oh, he went to Marshall.
I wasn't even close.
Would have never guessed that one. Casey Mosery, where are you at, man?
Yeah, it's on Whiteside.
So now Portland is on the clock from their so this pick is going to be going to Sacramento. So
right.
Portland's going to make the pick, but it's going to be a Sacramento King.
If I may make a criticism, ESPN kind of needs to kind of display that because it confused me when I see a Blazer symbol. Yeah, I know the pick's not going.
They're not graphically, friendly in this situation. Yeah.
No, they're really not. They're really not graphically friendly. They're not very employee friendly either. Ooh.
I mean, because we're watching it live and we saw what the draft was, but honestly, I didn't remember the picks involved. And when it says obviously that this is the King's pick, or whoever that was back when we got called out for it, Trying to multitask and do a lot of different things, it was hard to say that with any kind of certainty. So, but based on what we know right now, that this definitely will be the Kings pick.
Yeah, so I mean, where do the Kings go? I would love to see Swanigan. I'm going to keep repping him until he gets drafted. I know they got some other big men like Cauley Stein and Labissiere and different things like that, but I think he would. They don't, those type of big men that they have. They don't have the defined post moves and post skill set that Swanigan has. So I like him here, but I don't know where else they could go. A lot of the guards have been taken. They might go defense with that Anunoby out of Indiana. So
I'm trying to think of what a Dave Yeager-led team would do. And I think they would probably go, okay, here's my crazy prediction right here. An obscure shooting guard that should probably go third round, but is about to go 15. Or second round, I'm sorry. Should go second round. But
so an undrafted guy is, it's going to be tough to see. I mean, the shooting guards that are even available, I mean, I think my highest is a point guard, Derek White, out of Colorado. You got Terrence Ferguson, who went and played overseas in Australia instead of playing college. He's a guy that I'm also high on. So maybe they get Ferguson out of Australia there, but I don't know. There's still some. For right now, it's basically going to be a run on forwards because that's where the talent is at this current point in the draft. Whether it be small forwards or power forwards, even a center and Jared Allen. So a lot of big men still available where the guards are starting to dwindle because they went so heavy in the first 10 to 15 picks.
I think they could just about do anything they wanted to. Is Rudy Gay up for free agency now?
Yeah, he opted out.
Okay, so I think you're wide open of what you could do here, and the Kings may be in just another one of those positions to just pick the best available talent left.
So who do you think that? I mean, on my board, I think it's Caleb Swanigan. You can go John Collins, Harry Giles, TJ Leaf. So there are some names out there, that's for sure. OG Anunoby. I'm going to get it right eventually.
Yeah, I don't know, man. TJ Leaf, maybe. I don't know. TJ Leaf, Harry Giles.
Going back
I
on
don't
these
know.
picks the teams have made, these were some really these teams passing these players.
So, looking at what Jay Billis says the best available right now would be, well, I lost it. I think it was Anunoby.
And I think Anunoby was the next.
Yeah, Anunoby, Jared Allen, then
Justin
Jackson, John Collins. Justin Jackson, I don't know. I like TJ Leaf. I like Justin Jackson. That's just me personally.
Here's selection. Justin Jackson.
The Portland Trailblazers select Justin Jackson.
There you go.
From the University of North Carolina.
So this is going to
solid pick.
This is going to Sacramento. So there's their shooting guard that they're filling out.
So I'm not sure he plays shooting guard.
I see him more
big ass shooting guard.
Yeah, I mean, it's
play there,
6'9" shooting guard. I see him more as a 3, but my NBA comp to him was a guy that I used to call Stonehenge. That's Michael Petrus. I don't know if you guys remember him from the Celtics.
Yeah, dude, he was a freak
Magic.
athlete.
Petrus.
Did he not play for the Warriors too? Back when the Warriors were trying to make a run?
In the day, yep. So that's the guy I had, Jackson comp to. I think he's a better shooter right now than Petrus, but Petrus did have a little bit more athleticism.
6'8", 200. He's just a good athlete.
Petrus had a lot of impact with the Magic too. If I remember, he played with the Magic when Dwight Howard was running towards the Lakers, and they made their little run in the finals.
Justin Jackson was key and made key plays even in the championship game against Gonzaga. I don't think you can kind of underestimate just the instinct he has for the game. And I think he's a winner. He was a winner last year. North Carolina was that close to winning it all last year and that close to being back-to-back champs.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting a proven guy, so that's if you're trying to build that culture up, you're getting guys that played at programs, know how to win. You started off with De'Aaron Fox, and now you have Justin Jackson, players that just know how to win. So that's definitely a good thing.
We are into hour 3 of coverage here from the My Fantasy Podcast live NBA draft show. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. We got some surprises. We've had some trades. We definitely have had some trades, but really haven't seen a lot of big names move other than Jimmy Butler, I guess. So there's been moves. I still look for a few more moves, yet to shake out, but we're through the lottery stage now. We're getting into the back end of the first round. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what teams want to maybe move up. Maybe my Grizzlies are still looking to move into, I'm not going to say into the first round, into the draft period with making a move still. So we'll see what happens.
Right now the Bulls are on the clock, but I think this pick belongs to Minnesota. So this will be Minnesota's pick coming up here next. Due to that.
So I like Caleb Swanigan. I like TJ Leaf. I like Harry Giles. I think those are some winners. But I've been shocked with the few.
Oh yeah, I would love to see some Swanigan in Minnesota. I think he would complement that the type of athletes that they have on the perimeter. Pair him with Karl Anthony Towns. I think not only do you have a fantastic front court, but your back court with Wiggins, Jimmy Butler. Ricky Rubio, if he lasts. I mean, I was high on him last year saying they were going to be the 4th seed, and they completely disappointed. But the roster, to me, on paper, is fantastic.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, I think that was maybe the one spot where we really could do some damage because, like I said, I'm showing that Gorgie Jing is their starting power forward, maybe even Belichick, I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. He's a decent fantasy player, but Bjelica? I don't know if you play fantasy basketball or watch the Timberwolves very highly, you know what I'm talking about. But
I know exactly who you're talking about. I cannot get
Nemanja.
Here's the thing, guys. He couldn't be that good because the champion, me, didn't have him and doesn't know who the heck you're talking about. So
Nemanja Bjelica?
You can Bjelica my first place finish.
Anyway, Adrian Payne. Adrian Payne's okay, but I would say that was probably the most glaring. And although I love Gorgie Jing, I really do like Gorgie Jing, but I think you may want to use him more as a backup center and backup when Cat has to go out as a true power forward. But I don't know. But anyway, I do like maybe John Collins is Dylan Davis Trotto is high on, like TJ Leaf, and then Caleb Swanigan. So I think anything other than a power forward here, because there's so many power forwards left in this top 8 or so of best available talent, that I'd be shocked if, based on the depth chart of the Timberwolves of what they need and the talent left in this draft, if they don't go at least power forward. Who that is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's they're out there, and the clock is running down. So maybe we might see another trade coming. The nice thing about the NBA draft instead of the NFL draft, not all teams wait until the last second. So if a team usually does, they might still be trying to wheel and deal a little bit. In Minnesota, you never know with Ricky Rubio on that trade block, although he probably isn't anymore with them trading away their backup point guard and Chris Dunn.
I don't know if you gave up completely on them, Dan, but how close how many games did they miss the playoffs of Minnesota?
Too many. Way too many. They weren't even.
Yeah, but they were above the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns, and right?
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Were they battling like Dallas? Weren't they battling like Dallas? Dallas.
No, Dallas towards the end of the year made a playoff run for that eighth spot, and I don't think Minnesota was ever really in contention for that 8th spot. So I'm sure they were down.
I always felt like Minnesota could have been a better team this year. I don't know why. I just feel like they're just like one move away. Maybe Jimmy Butler is that move.
I mean, they had a lot of pieces. With Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, Ricky Rubio. So
now Jimmy Butler and Ricky. I think Ricky Rubio needs to stay now because you need a point guard. You can't just trade that off and think you're going to get something better.
I think Ricky Rubio's okay. I'm not. I'm not too upset if he was to remain and build around him.
Yeah, I don't hate him.
Listen.
Here goes.
With the 16th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Chicago Bulls select Justin Patton from Creighton University.
So technically a center from Creighton.
Yeah, there's your center for Minnesota. So you have Carl Anthony Towns, power forward, and Patton at the center. Kind of gives Gorgie Dieng to be able to be that sixth man in the front court to replace either one of them. So I like it. It's a solid pick.
Maybe they like Gorgie Dieng playing the 4. I guess that's okay, but I mean he's damn near 7 foot, isn't he? Or right at 7 foot. So I don't know. I just see him more as that shot blocker and center presence. But I don't know. I'm not building the team.
Maybe you should, New Breed.
Maybe you should. You got the investment in him.
Actually, it makes sense of what Dan said. As a 6th man, he can play the 4, the 5. So, he fills in a need off the bench for this team who now have their starting lineup.
Well, and here's the other thing. We don't know exactly who these teams, unless you really keep up with it on a day-to-day basis, of who has worked out for who and who impressed and all that. So we don't know that, Patton didn't really work out for the Timberwolves a couple of times and really shine. They really fell in love with him. But I'm kind of with Dylan Davis-Trotto here. This pick does not belong to the Bulls. Why are they flashing Bulls stuff everywhere, and why is he wearing a Bulls hat? Come on.
So I think it's NBA rule policy that the trades don't go into effect until like a day or two after the draft.
Well, that's stupid. So all his draft day pictures are going to have him wearing a Bulls hat, and you're going to have to go and do
kind of like Kobe wearing a Hornets hat when he was drafted,
When he was drafted, and then he went to LA Lakers.
I don't remember that back in the day, though. I thought they used to switch hats because I've seen guys on draft night wear 2 different hats. Like, you walk the stage and get one hat, do a quick post-pick interview in one hat, and then they go back and do another interview with it. Well, you're switching hats. I completely remember that because if you remember back in the day, when Penny Hardaway was drafted, he was drafted by the Warriors. They did a Jamal Mashburn Penny Hardaway trade, and I am positive those guys switched hats.
So maybe they're going to do it next. They're starting with that original team, and then they're going to switch behind the stage.
Maybe this is a mess.
Maybe you're growing a little impatient, New Breed.
Maybe I'm just
He wants.
It's obvious. It's obvious. It's not the Bulls' pick. You traded. Okay, so I don't know.
Maybe they're going to say, "Nah, never mind. Forget you, Minnesota. We want Jimmy Butler back."
Nah, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Not official. DeAndre Jordan was a Maverick, wasn't
he? Well, that's something different. He was held hostage and kidnapped. So
wow, you don't mess with the Q.
No. That's not what happened. He was like, "Yep, I'm gonna jump right." Oh no.
He was kidnapped.
Can I go back now? Can I go back?
He was completely kidnapped. Doc Rivers and Chris Paul kidnapped him, and even the State Farm guy was in on it. They rented out a house in some kind of secluded area in L.A., and it was an undisclosed location, and they kidnapped him.
Yeah, they did force him to wear khakis. I remember that.
Very true. So different situation. Oh, man. So, but anyway, biggest shakeup so far, at least as far as tonight, right, guys, is Jimmy Butler's going to be playing in Minnesota next year.
Yeah. Biggest shakeup.
I'm still kind of surprised that he was the one. I thought he would be the last of the, Paul George, Porzingis, and Butler. I thought he would be the last of the ones to actually be traded tonight. But, he seems like he's been on the block in Chicago for the last 2.5 years. So, they finally decided to let him go.
So 2, 3, and 5 in Minnesota. You got some super studs there with Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, and Karl Anthony Towns, right? I mean, you're just like 2 pieces away from having a damn good squad.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years from now, Butler's getting a little bit older, but I think you still need some development, especially out of Wiggins, out of all 3 of them.
He has flashes. If he could just completely wrap the whole game up.
They're doing the Golden State Warriors, kind of drafting their own super team. They just need one more piece maybe coming. And then maybe that's Butler, maybe it's somebody else joining them. But it's definitely an impressive start. You have to be happy tonight if you're a Timberwolves fan. It's a shame that we didn't get Malachi on here because he is a Timberwolves fan, and I think he would have. He loves that Jimmy Butler trade. Although I'm kind of putting words in his mouth.
So I know you were high on the Timberwolves last year, and I know you were also high on Chris Dunn last year, Dan. And of course, if you're getting Jimmy Butler, you can't really complain too much. But do you hate giving up Chris Dunn in that deal?
No, not at all.
After 1 year, you don't think Chris Dunn is going to be something special in the NBA?
I didn't see special out of him last year. Yeah, I mean he couldn't even get on the court, which was bad. I mean he didn't even play many minutes. And
yeah,
it was
and Levine went down with injury, so if you can't get in the game then, and Rubio missed some time, so.
And he was one of those older guys. I think he was 22 or 23 when he was drafted. So his ceiling is only so high at that point. So yeah, I'm very okay with trading him for Jimmy Butler.
That was a freebie. It was just to make sure that Butler wouldn't walk, and Chicago wouldn't come away with nothing. So that was honestly a quick fire deal. I think the Chicago prematurely made. They may have jumped the gun a little too much on that because Minnesota just got a gift.
So Milwaukee is on the clock. They could use a little bit more talent. They are the ones that selected Thon Maker with the 10th overall pick last year. They got some decent things going on in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need a guard more than anything, but it's all big men that are kind of available. I mean, you have Jabari Parker coming back from a torn ACL. You still have John Henson, Greg Monroe.
How do you like Chris Middleton?
He's a decent shooter. I would like him more as a sixth man coming off my bench than a starter.
Right.
But I mean,
I'd like him more as a seventh man coming off my bench then.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's got some decent game, but as a counting on him for a consistent stretch of 82 game season plus playoffs, I don't think so. Pass.
And I don't think Middleton is on. I don't mean to come down on him too hard. I understand he's a good player. He's too slow, and he can't keep up with the physicality of this league. And for someone his size and his skill set, just run to a spot, catch and shoot. But I think right now you got to go. Don't go power forward or center. You have plenty of backcourt help. I think you go with someone who could be paired up with Malcolm Brogdon. And you go right into the season with Brogdon either playing point or find someone who can play the two or whatever they want. Maybe have a 2-point guard starting lineup, 2 players who distribute the ball because it's going to be the Greek freak that's doing everything. Giannis Antetokounmpo? I don't know.
Antetokounmpo. I've heard it said different ways.
I'm not even going to try. Yeah. I just call him Greek freak. Giannis.
That's the safest way. But
that's a safe way. But yeah, I think Milwaukee. I mean, that stat came up that they haven't won a playoff series since 2001, which is shocking. So there's got to be a green light for them to go with a player that could be paired in that backcourt, and let's see what they can do.
Well, they're at the point now where I think they better start doing some things to make it interesting for Giannis Antetokounmpo, because if not, then he's probably going to bounce in free agency. I think he's locked up.
Next.
I think anybody would be very fortunate to have him, because I think he is one of the most up-and-coming top studs in the league. But I think he's locked up under contract till like 2020, maybe even 2021. It's quite a while.
He's no longer in his rookie deal, so he's locked up in NBA contracts. So I don't think there's probably was there a player option possibly for 2020 when he could opt out, or was it 2021?
I think he would just have to make some noise in the next 2 years to say, hey, look, y'all suck. I'm ready to contend and trade me.
Yeah.
But I know it's at least 2020.
He has that power right now, honestly, because he's the one player that they really need.
Let's see who it is.
With the 17th pick in the 2017
another power forward?
The Milwaukee Bucks select DJ Wilson from the University of Michigan.
Well, Dan, where was this guy on your prospect list?
Yeah, I was not. I'm not high on this guy at all. I watched a lot of Michigan, and he was good. He was good during their hot stretch through the NCAA tournament, but consistency was kind of weird. I had a lot of power forwards ranked ahead of him. including TJ Leaf, obviously Swanigan, Giles, Collins. I mean, just a number of them. So, the Bucks surprised me last year with Thon Maker. Maybe this is another one. I mean, he was higher on some other draft sites that I've looked at, but I didn't see it. I don't see it for the 17th pick overall.
Honestly, I'm not familiar with this guy at all, to be honest with you.
That's a reach. Big reach. Big reach. But once again, like they said, maybe they see something in him we don't. Kind of going back to the Kristaps Porzingis deal. I hate to keep bringing up the Knicks, but he was a player that we all booed, and then all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, he's a unicorn.
Well, and then also these same Milwaukee Bucks stole the possible Rookie of the Year, Malcolm Brogdon, 36th overall last year. So you never know. It could work out either way.
Again, put faith in them. And like I mentioned earlier, though, they are not in a position to keep on having losing seasons because Giannis is going to leave. I think Giannis is going to leave regardless just because the venue may not be what he wants. Milwaukee is a traditional team that's, they want to bring in players that want to be proud to play for the franchise. They don't really want to leave for the big areas. And I feel like Giannis and his kind of potential is not going to be suited to a Milwaukee team that can grow with him. He might be Bolton soon. You'll see a lot more trade rumors involving him as years go on.
So, they made the playoffs this year, just ran into kind of a tough matchup for them in Toronto. So, but they did make the playoffs at a 6 seed. So they're not that far off. They just weren't really seen as contenders. They weren't that top tier in the East.
Yeah, I think they need another player that they got to pair with Antetokounmpo. That's more of that star caliber. Brogdon's nice, Monroe was nice off the bench. You have some pieces there. Dellavedova was a nice get in free agency last season who played for him. But
you think Thon Maker can become a stud?
He showed flashes, that's for sure. I don't know.
He's big, right? He's over 7 foot, right? 7'1", 7'2".
Yeah, and he's young.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible. They had some. I would like to see Jabari Parker stay healthy. If he can stay healthy and be that player that I think he can be, that would be a huge addition next to Antetokounmpo. So we'll see. I like Jason Kidd as a coach. They need one other guy. If they could somehow, and it'll never, ever, ever, ever happen, but if they could land like a Paul George or Gordon Hayward, I think they can compete next season with the Cavs, just because I think the Greek Freak is the closest thing that we have to a LeBron James in the NBA right now.
I agree, and up and coming too. It's just that, is Milwaukee a very desirable free agent destination? No. If Memphis ain't, Milwaukee sure as hell ain't.
Oh, here we go. Oh, does Indiana make the big trade? I doubt it'd be. No, they're not making any indication that a trade was made.
So Paul George came out this week and said that he is pretty happy to stay in Indiana, right? Did I misread that? Am I dreaming that?
No, well, I yes, but only for one more year. And then apparently, according to reports that showed up earlier this week, he was very explicit in saying, I'm going to stay for one more year and then go to Los Angeles.
Okay. It's nice to have a plan.
I'm not kidding you. It was that explicit of what he said. Here's the text.
With the 18th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers select TJ Leaf from UCLA.
There's one of them.
So at 18, I like this. I like this for the Pacers. I just like this at an 18th ranked talent in the NBA Draft.
I didn't have him that high. He has the upside for it, but I don't. He's one of the guys that I can say. I understand why he was picked here, but I had other guys ranked higher. But he is that stretch four that can knock down the shot. I just need to see him add some muscle to be able to bang down low in the post.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's just more or less that I think this guy fits a Indiana Pacers scheme pretty good. I mean, they got Thaddeus Young. They had Paul George Furnell, as DDT said, maybe just for one more year. And they got Miles Turner. So I think TJ Leaf just brings something a little bit different that neither one of those guys, Young or Turner, brings.
Yeah, I had him comp to Josh McRoberts. So not the best player, but a serviceable pro in the NBA.
Very comparable, but I think he could be better. He's he's young. He's definitely young.
Yeah, his potential is definitely a lot better than what McRoberts is right now.
Yeah, because didn't McRoberts play 3-4 years at Duke?
I think so.
He played 4 years. I think he played a full 4 years at Duke.
So Jeff Teague is their point guard. CJ Miles is listed as their shooting guard. But are we running kind of thin with point guards and shooting guards left in the draft right now?
Yeah, my highest point guard is Derek White out of Colorado. Shooting guard Terrence Ferguson from Australia.
Wonder why it says why does it say United States on his profile for where his location is? That just because
he's American. Yeah,
American,
he's American. Instead of going to college, he went to play overseas, so he's considered an international prospect.
International prospect, but American. Okay. I wasn't sure. I saw that. I was thinking he was an international player that just played overseas in the league.
Yeah, he did the Brandon Jennings route, who went to go play overseas.
Yeah.
Or Emmanuel Mudiay.
Oh, Brandon Jennings. Why didn't you stay?
So what I'm looking at now, Dan, is Caleb Swanigan and Harry Giles. To me, I think you're getting to the point where they're probably creeping into the best talent left in this draft. We're at pick 19, and it's going to be made by the Atlanta Hawks, who just lost their center in Dwight Howard.
Jarrett Allen, I wouldn't be surprised to go here either. He's a center out of Syracuse. Or not Syracuse, Texas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that might be it. I mean,
he's another guy that I could see getting.
You had something in mind when you got rid of Dwight Howard.
Tell you what, so far we've gotten some good listener interaction, through Facebook where we posted the site, and the biggest messages that we're receiving so far are from Magic fans who hate the Jonathan Isaac pick. Some love it, but the majority are saying they absolutely can't stand it. So it's
well, and you said he's definitely a project. So,
yeah.
And I agree with that. And there was more talent to be had at that particular time.
Definitely, and that's one of the things that I've said back to some of the comments that I've received. And that's just some of the stuff that Magic fans have thrown out to me. So. Keep sending them in too. Send them in to us. Let us know how you feel about your team's picks, because it's not exactly how my mock went. Definitely been surprised with some of them, but that's how mocks always are, aren't they?
So definitely. But here's some of the guys that the Magic passed on is Frank Ntilikina, Zach Collins, Malik Monk, Luke Kennard, Donovan Mitchell, Justin Jackson. Just some of the names that followed the next few picks that the Magic could have had, which I would have liked better, but I don't know. I kind of feel you, Magic. I have been there with my Grizzlies a few times.
All right.
So Mike Muscala is their center right now if the Hawks don't draft a point guard or get a point guard.
John Collins just became their power force last center.
Hawks select John Collins from Wake Forest University.
There you go. Good call.
There's your answer.
Yeah, I mean, Collins isn't a bad pick. He's definitely risen draft boards. He was a sophomore last year at Wake Forest. From his freshman to sophomore year, he improved a lot, and that definitely improved his draft stock. Watching him in high school, he wasn't that very sought after. He wasn't a high recruit. His high school tape wasn't that impressive, but he kind of turned it on in college. Danny Manning, the head coach of Wake Forest, definitely worked with him and molded him into the type of player that he is. He doesn't have a lot of range. He's more of your post-up guy, but he's an elite rebounder that's going to be able to bang with the best of him right away. A high motor, one of those high-effort guys, so you know you're going to get his all every day. So I think with the Hawks and Budenholzer, their coach, coming from that Spurs system, John Collins kind of seems like that type of player. In Wake Forest, Tim Duncan. There you go, connection.
So they're listing him as a power forward, 6'9". I thought he was a little bigger than that. So
I think it's about 6'10" in the shoes, but pretty much solid.
Well, would he play center? Would they oppose to play him at center some behind Mike Muscala for year one anyway?
I think so. I think he's kind of versatile.
Paul Millsap is at power forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have his wingspan in my profile, but I mean, he's definitely an in the paint guy. He's not going to step out. He's not your stretch four if he is a power forward. I mean, he's not going to make a 3-pointer if his life depended on it. So he's more of that inside guy. He's got hops, so I wouldn't be surprised if he plays some center too.
Something I'm thinking about, something I'm looking at, Dan, while I'm thinking about Wake Forest kind of reminds me and makes me think of Georgia Tech. What? Josh Pastner ain't put no guys in the NBA yet? I mean, we've been through 2019 picks already. Are you kidding me? He was the ACC Coach of the Year. No NBA picks from Josh Pastner yet in Georgia Tech?
Give him time, as he almost won that NIT in his first year in Georgia Tech, and Tubby's out there losing recruits left and right. So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Tubby wasn't the long-term solution. Okay, Tubby is something. I don't know. Don't get me started. It's a twisted mess. But give it time. Yes, give it time. Okay, that's it.
Portland,
Sorry, folks.
Portland on the clock. This pick again going to Sacramento. So it's another Sacramento pick. They have a chance to really add some talent to their team tonight, and there's still some players out there that they can have that can make some impact.
I still like Harry Giles, Caleb Swanigan.
Yep. Those are the two that I would be keeping my eye on. Even Terrence Ferguson, I've been mentioning his name a lot. He's one of the few guards left that I think is worth this spot in the draft. Semi Ojeleye, whatever you want to call him, from SMU. He was a Duke product, transferred to SMU. He's a guy I'm very high on. I think this is probably a little bit too early for him, but he's one of those physical and powerful small forwards that can make an impact on the defensive end, and his offensive game is pretty solid as well. So he's a guy that I'm anxious to see where he goes.
You still have to consider Rudy Gay opting out, and Tyreke Evans is probably not quite the 3. So you have to consider that as well. You might be pretty thin at shooting at small forward at this point.
Yeah. Again, with the Kings roster, I mean, they've definitely filled some holes tonight. With De'Aaron Fox, but they can really go best player available. Anything to add talent to that team, I would go with.
They got a ton of guards, really. I mean, if you look at the list of guards on the team, with Darren Collinson, Aaron Aflalo, Tyreke Evans, Garrett Temple, Ben McLemore, Buddy Hield, Langston Galloway, they're a lot thinner in the front court than they are in the back court, for sure. I'm not saying that they have a lot of talent there and all those guys are going to win you any games, but as far as the team makeup right now, you're heavy backcourt loaded.
So they're showing the trade now with the Kings and Blazers.
Yay! In plain English, ESPN. Let's give ESPN a hand for some.
I have no idea. So Justin Jackson is in Sacramento, and then whoever the Trailblazers select will go.
2017 NBA Draft.
Oh no, they go Harry Giles.
Select Harry Giles from Duke University.
Good pick. Sacramento's doing some good work. Good work today. Props to Vlade Divac there.
Yeah, they snuck a couple of guys out of here. I think that might end up being a little bit of a steal. We'll see. Dan mentioned injury history, but if the guy lives up to potential, then they've come away with some pretty good studs in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, just like Harry Giles before his season at Duke. He was a top 3 prospect. Was supposed to be a top 3 pick in the NBA
He
draft.
came out of high school as number uno.
Yeah, so I mean, he was highly sought after, and to see him fall to 20 overall, I mean, he's lost a lot of money, but he has a chance to, get some playing time, I would think, right away.
If he's playing
Yeah,
Sacramento,
on that
he should
squad,
be
yeah.
right into there.
Yeah, I agree. On that squad, yeah, he'll be okay with playing time.
He should be jumping right in there no matter what. OKC's up next now. Where do we start?
I know.
Is that a good question to ask then? Where do they start? Pick someone and let's try it out.
I'm thinking you still have to kind of make up for what you lost in the trade last year. They need power forward help.
Definitely a lot more. Definitely still some available. I think Dan's guy,
Swanigan
out of Germany, is still there.
No,
I think
Germany. Who's out of Germany?
There's a player out
Hartenstein?
of Germany.
Hartenstein's out of Germany. Isaiah Hartenstein.
I just saw Hartenstein. The first thought I had was Germany. Just sounds.
Hartenstein's that. Yep.
Well, I was kind of thinking more Caleb Swanigan to make
what I
up for
was
what you
thinking
lost with Serge Ibaka from the draft day trade last year. Because I don't think you ever made that up. And I've said this before on the podcast. I think if Kevin Durant would have stayed, then I think the draft would have worked out better for you to bring over Victor Oladipo and Sabonis. But he didn't stay, and that's the problem. So I think now you kind of need that force. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go with another defender in OG Anunoby from Indiana.
I was just going to say Anunoby is on that board. That's your small forward position.
You have him at the 3, Andre Roberson at the 2, and I'm sorry, but you're not getting in the paint. If you're a guard playing against them, their defense, even Russell Westbrook, when he wants to play defense, he can be locked down. So
He's ferocious.
Those 3, yeah, but I mean, it's only ferocious every once in a while. He's a little baby raptor. The rest of the time, give me my ball. Where's my ball?
You know what he is? You know what he is as of June 26th, Dan?
MVP.
Congratulations.
Word.
It also came with a first-round playoff exit. So
Hey,
James Harden, your
regular
MVP, came with a
season.
second-round playoff exit.
I think I would actually I would change my pick now to Kawhi.
Come on.
I think I
Give me
would.
a
Just seeing
break.
how he played in the playoffs.
Man, you give it to LeBron before you give it to
playoffs,
Kawhi.
When he
Seriously.
went out, the Spurs fell apart.
Come
He was the most
on.
valuable. It was
Come on.
pretty obvious.
Kawhi is
Triple
5th or
double
6th on that
NBA
list.
season.
Give me a break. Yeah, man, he set
Dan,
records.
Triple
He set records on a
double
horrible
MVP.
team. Okay,
Yeah, but his teammates helped him. I mean, they would not get rebounds so he could grab them. They were
Whatever.
phony triple doubles, not even real.
Whatever. Did you watch the
Dan.
games right? He attacked the rim. That's why he got rebounds. He attacked the rim more than anybody else.
And then his
Dan,
teammates would not grab them.
It's a
so he could.
triple double. Dan, it's a triple double NBA.
Who cares? It resulted in losses.
Who cares?
Fourth quarter
I can't.
terribleness. He shot like 12%.
It resulted in a
fourth quarter.
6th seed on a lottery
I
team.
I can't.
I'm not saying
I can't.
they were all
That's over.
manufactured triple
Hey,
doubles.
DDT, that conversation's over. June 26th. We
I'm
know
done.
who the
I'm done.
MVP is.
I'm
That
done. I don't need to
conversation's
talk
over.
about it.
He's going to win it, but it's because of that fake stats. It's
Oh,
stupid.
yeah. Okay.
But
Big
W's.
stats. He
Okay.
had to take a team on his shoulders and literally carry it as far as he could without trying to get him the bottle out of the
It
playoffs.
wasn't that far.
He brought
LeBron
them
James
there.
could have got them into the second round of the playoffs at
If
least.
Russell Westbrook wasn't on that team, then they would have
Oh.
had Jason Tatum, Justin, Josh Jackson with
They would have.
this draft.
They've been picking number one.
Yeah.
They would have been picking number one.
No.
Oh, we saw that when he went in the game. They were like negative 25 when he wasn't in the game. They could not score, period.
Well, I can't help their
Sorry,
jitters.
you know,
That conversation's over.
If you average a triple double, in the NBA season and do not win MVP, you're playing in the wrong league. And
Well,
that's
what about
right.
Oscar Robertson? He didn't win the MVP.
It doesn't mean what the MVP means in back in that day is nothing that what it's compared to now. If you go back in that era of basketball, MVP, Rookie of the Year, all this other titles, trophies we hand out did not mean anything. Why? Because at that time, the NBA had competition. There was a level state of competition in the NBA at that time. We have two teams that will beat everyone.
So then why is Russell Westbrook getting the MVP then?
Because he averaged a triple-double and managed to bring a team that had nothing, that lost their superstar.
I'm saying most valuable player to his team.
Right, so I guess I'm not understanding the Oscar Robertson comparison. Then I think he should have won it. He had the record. He didn't even win it that year.
Well, I'm not an expert on that season. I mean, it was 55 years ago, Dan. I would have to break down. I'd have to really I don't know the ins and outs of that particular season.
Triple doubles. If that's your only comparison of why
it's not. It's also the fact that his MVP caliber cohort bailed on him in midsummer and said "F you" after being one game away from going to the NBA Finals.
That should be a factor of the MVP because Kevin
Yes, it
Durant
should. Yes, it should because. And I've told you before, Dan, when he bailed as late as he did in free agency, the Thunder were screwed. You can't sign top free agents at that time. You can't make moves at that time to get better and get back to the level you were. Exactly, he was left with nothing.
MVP.
But that doesn't make you an MVP because somebody left the team. That doesn't make you an
amount
MVP.
of games.
Yes, it does.
Amount of games.
Yes,
if you take him off that team, you take Kawhi off the Spurs, they're still at least a 6 seed.
Look at what they did in the playoffs. They were terrible without Kawhi. They were beating Golden State
They're
with
still making the playoffs by far. Here we go. I'm done with this.
With the 21st pick in the 2017
okay.
NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Terrence Ferguson from Dallas, Texas, and the Adelaide 36ers in Australia.
Well, there you go. A shooting guard.
Who can also play a little bit of small forward, I think. I think he can play both positions.
I think the tough thing with that pick is he's not a very good shooter. So
he's ranked, though that's the first thing they highlight is his shooting. So, I mean, where does he stand in terms of playing an NBA level?
But you realize, Dan, you had him picked exactly 21.
See, every once in a while I get things right.
Yeah, except for that you say Westbrook's not the MVP.
Well, I think he's going to win. I wouldn't have voted for him. There's no way. They're manufactured.
I would have. You know what? We'll talk about this. When is the date when they announce MVP, Brandon?
June 26th. We're having a live draft show. I'm having cake and everything.
I know he's going to win, but that doesn't mean I agree with it. He can win all he wants. He's not my MVP.
Dan, all I want you to acknowledge that you know he's going to win. That's all I want.
I've been acknowledging that. Just listen to the podcast every week. I have to deal with that. I have acknowledged it. I don't agree with it.
Anyway, Dan's NBA comp of Terrence Ferguson is Terrence Ross. And as you see right there, ESPN's is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Very close, very close. I think you have him playing more of a defensive 3-type role than what ESPN is showing because you said he's not a very good shooter, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a little bit more of a scorer than what ESPN is showing. So,
yeah, I definitely have. I think he's going to be able to be a solid defender right away. And he is an athlete, 38-inch vertical. He shot okay. I mean, he shot 38% from 3 in Australia. Nothing too good. I mean, I'm not too impressed with 38%. It's not bad. But even I think his 2-point percentage was in the 40s. So it's nothing too great either. So he might have that capability, but he's got to develop that consistent type shot that, he didn't in his 1 year overseas. But he's still young.
Is he more of a project player than someone that they need to take to the side and try to mold into what they want to be for a companion of Westbrook, or is he just someone they're just going to try and see what he's got?
I think he's more. He's a better offensive player than Andre Roberson, but it took Roberson a few years to crack the rotation. I think it might take Ferguson a little while. Another player that I thought similar to him is Thabo Sefolosha, who they used to have there. Kind of more of that defensive presence who can make that occasional shot, but isn't going to be relied on to be their first or second option on offense.
So here at the Nets, they have something building right now with D'Angelo Russell being brought in. They're definitely going to build around him.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Nets.
Let's just hope they don't get his snapshot.
Oh, man, we gotta let that go.
They don't really have.
We gotta let that go.
with I'm not sure I am, because I think it leads to more emotional problems with this kid. I just think he's immature, and not just for a young kid. I think he's immature and is not going to grasp the whole thing ever. So, but they got rid of Brooke Lopez, so they have D'Angelo Russell now. They have Timothy Mozgov. Other than that, even with those, I don't like their team at all. Rondé Hollis Jefferson, Randy Foye, Joe Harris, Sean Kilpatrick.
They still have Hollis Jefferson, right?
According to this depth chart from CBS Sports.
All right, then let's optimism.
Trevor Booker played some minutes,
Optimism. I definitely think they need to start with Jared Allen because Timothy Mozgov is not a starter. He had his
Quincy Acee.
He had his chance with Cleveland, and I think from that point forward, I don't see much else they can do. I think Allen is the pick they need to make here. Start with center, and again, watch your pick go right to Boston. Watch them pick in the top 10 next year. I think that's how this is going to get drawn up.
Yeah. I don't know. I say best available talent. You need everything. They're no good. They're not going to be any good next year. It's bad.
Is Jeremy Lin still playing for them, or is that only on a 1-year deal?
Yeah, Brooklyn's going Linsane.
Linsane in the membrane. Oh, those were good days.
Mm-hmm.
Too few of them.
What I'm noticing, though, Dan, is you had we'll talk about it again, our guy, Caleb Swanigan, you had him 13. He is slipping. And I just think he's one of the more NBA-ready guys.
Yes, without a doubt.
Some of those Magic fans that were, complaining about Isaac. You had a much more NBA-ready guy, ready. I know that's kind of high, but still, Caleb Swanigan, I think, is going to be one of the more NBA-ready guys to step in and play minutes right away.
Yeah, and I have Swanigan comp to Al Horford, who I think that's a perfect comp. I think they're very, very similar players. Swanigan doesn't offer you much on the defensive side, but for that offensive presence, he knows his footwork is fantastic in the post. He can score in the post. He can pass, and he's even getting range to his shot. His three-point percentage has increased every year he was at Purdue, and he's just getting better. He's one of those rebounders with great IQs, and I want to see him drafted because whatever team gets him is going to be getting a solid player.
We're just in the last few minutes of our live draft coverage here, the NBA draft. And I don't know if you guys ever noticed, the NBA draft takes forever. So we're at the bottom of hour 3 of our coverage. We're going to wrap it up soon. The rest you'll have to check out on the website, myfantasysportstalk.com, tomorrow and the following days to see everything that happened in the bottom half of the first round and the second round. But here comes Adam Silver. This is the 22nd pick by the Brooklyn Nets. Trade!
No, just reach out.
Jimmy Butler and the draft rights to Justin Patton.
A little late there, Adam.
To the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Whoa, this happened like way early in the first round.
And Zach LaVine.
What hour are we in? Are we in hour 3 or hour 1? What is going on?
We just time traveled back to the early first round.
And with the 22nd pick in the 2017 NBA draft, the Brooklyn Nets select Jared Allen from the University of Texas.
There you go. So there's your center. You're exactly right, DDT. You got rid of Brooke Lopez. You probably need to address your center situation.
He's a good I think it's a pretty solid pick.
Yeah, no, I like it, and it's kind of weird that whether it's my comps being somewhat eerily similar, but the Nets just traded Brooke Lopez, and I have Jared Allen comp to Robin Lopez.
There you go. They're twins.
Lopez brothers are somewhat staying in Brooklyn, or at least one is heading there. But he's definitely got a lot of high upside. Great rebounder. He's a rim protector. He'll block shots. Doesn't have much of an offensive game yet, but he needs to develop that, kind of like Robin did. Robin Lopez came into the league and wasn't very good on offense. Brooke was the offensive force, but I think he can develop into that. He's still pretty young. But he's got that talent and potential.
Well, maybe Mikhail Prokhorov gets it, and he's like, just blow it all up, whatever. Sure, I'll trade Brooke Lopez for Jared Allen, whatever. It doesn't matter. No one's going to be competing for the East Crown in the next 3 to 4 years anyway. So, whatever. Why does it matter? Although Nets fans, you're going to have to give them something to buy tickets for and sit their butts in the seats for next year, right?
Jay-Z will buy tickets, right? Maybe.
He better buy a lot of them.
I don't think he even owns the team anymore.
No, he sold his share. Yeah.
He still has a bit share of it? Okay.
No, I think he sold it. He sold his share.
Oh, okay. Oh. I've been to the Barclays Center. First of all, that's a great venue, especially for an NBA team. When the Brooklyn Nets moved there, there was so much hype behind them, especially when they made that really bad trade with the Celtics. They pretty much ruined them. But all that aside, that's a great venue to watch a basketball game in. And I've been to a couple of games there with the Nets, and Nets and Knicks games, and they really hype it up. It's a good venue. It's just the Nets just don't have anything to work with over the next few years. Their picks, and their team is sitting in Boston right now. With all these picks they could be getting this year, the Nets could be on a rebound, and unfortunately, they'll be sounding like crickets for the next couple of years.
The Barclays Center definitely has my favorite NBA court. I love that parquet type floor, and then just the black. It's definitely my favorite looking floor. If that means anything, doesn't translate to wins at all. But
I mean, listen, the Madison Square Garden's also a great venue with a really nice court, and that still doesn't get the Knicks anywhere closer. But Lakers have a nice floor. Every team's got a nice court. It's just
I don't know. Milwaukee, the crazy stuff Milwaukee was doing the last couple of years is kind of stupid. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's very distracting.
The
crazy ilm or whatever, just like, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, it does look kind of weird. I mean, this is the thing. It's just like you're trying to attract people. You do crazy stunts and gigs. You change the floor plan up. You change the logo and whatnot. What brings people to the Garden is just the allure of the Knicks being a great franchise, and it's a hot spot to meet celebrities and meet people. I mean, I've been to MSG, and I can tell you, you walk through those doors and you notice Spike Lee and Chris Rock to your right. I mean, where you're standing is pretty much the place to be for our night's game, even though the Knicks were blown out. But it's the place to be. That's your theme recently.
We are sitting on 9 o'clock. Dan, let's say we get one more pick. We'll try to see if Caleb Swanigan gets drafted. We'll see if Caleb Swanigan gets drafted 23 to Toronto Raptors. Then we're going to sign off, and the rest is up to you guys to watch and keep up with, and follow us on myfantasysportstalk.com. Dan's got a lot of stuff out there, his prospects, his draft profiles. Of course, I said earlier I got the Malik Monk thing out there for all you fans of Malik Monk that want to see some Malik Monk freshman games from high school. Check that out as well, and all the coverage we'll continue to bring tomorrow after everything wraps up and all the trades that finalize and whatever else nuttiness happens between now and the end of the second round. But we're about to close this thing out very soon. But 23rd pick coming up by the Toronto Raptors. Got to do it soon, Dan. Again, Caleb Swanigan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might even have to go. Like, another guy that I'm pretty high on is Derek White. Watched a ton of his games at Colorado. I think the Raptors are going to be losing Kyle Lowry. Derek White's an NBA-ready type point guard who can play minutes right away. Pair him with DeLone Wright, who they drafted a couple years ago out of Utah. I think you got a pretty decent backcourt to pair with DeRozan. But the Raptors, I think, are on the verge of being in trouble. They're going to lose a lot of their guys. I don't think Ibaka is going to re-sign.
So if they don't think Ibaka is going to re-sign, maybe they do go Caleb Swanigan here.
Yeah, they could. They can go a lot of guys. Semi Ojeleye, I think he would fit in. He's a Masai Ujiri type, where he can play defense and give you offense. They have quite a few options here. It'll be interesting to see where exactly they go.
think Frank Mason is or the two Frank point guard. I forgot the other guy's last name, but they want to go in that direction to replace Kyle Lowry. They should go with that or Jerwan Evans.
Here we go.
From Oklahoma State.
We have another trade to announce. The Portland Trailblazers trade the draft rights to Justin Jackson, the 15th pick, and Harry Giles, the 20th pick, to the Sacramento Kings for the draft rights to Zach Collins, the 10th pick.
And this is just a recap.
And with the 23rd pick in the 2017 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors select OG Anunoby from University.
But it's going to Denver.
OG
Anunoby. Yep,
going to Denver, though.
Yes, going to Denver. So, I guess the biggest thing for us, Dan, to look forward to in the next hour or so is where does Caleb Swanigan go? He slipped a lot. You had him 13. He's slipping to at least 25.
Yeah, I kind of expected
24.
it. I mean, I had him higher than basically everybody else. I mean, I followed him back into his into his high school days, so I know the type of player that he is. But he doesn't have that high ceiling that you look for in some of these picks. That's why a lot of the freshmen and sophomores that were in college that entered the draft are being drafted. Before Swanigan, who was a sophomore, but he's kind of reached his limit. How much better can he get? So he's kind of plateaued, but I think that plateau is pretty damn solid, if you ask me.
Yep, I agree. We'll have to keep a watch out. But Anunoby here, they're showing his highlights. He's very athletic, can run the floor. Almost reminds me of Victor Oladipo, another guy from Indiana, just a little bit bigger with a little bit more explosiveness, but could be a good pickup. We went through 23 picks of the draft, 3 hours of NBA draft coverage. Dylan Davis, Toronto. What was your takeaway from what we saw? The biggest news of the night, I guess, for sure, was the Jimmy Butler trade. He's going to Minnesota.
I think, the Jimmy Butler trade was the biggest surprise, if the only surprise we had in this draft. I think also there were certain picks that were reaches. Certain teams seeing things with players that we don't see yet. Hopefully they turn out to be studs. We can use all the studs we can get right now. If there's one thing that this draft is showing, it's starting with Timberwolves and working our way down. Timberwolves are in a win now mode. And teams that are going up and grabbing these players, reaching, honestly, I don't bash it at all. I think every team needs all the help they can get. This is one of the deepest drafts we've had in quite some time. If you see a stud, go for it. What do you have to lose? Because right now, and as we've mentioned before, the competitive nature of the NBA all now comes down to who wants the highest level of a participation trophy. Because we all know who's playing in the finals this year and the year after that, if all should fall together with Cleveland and Golden State in terms of who they select for their teams. But right now, this has been a great draft. We're seeing the beef from Philadelphia and Los Angeles. I'm kind of looking forward to now watching that game. We'll start highlighting that on the schedule this year. Because if there's one thing I'm definitely doing this year, I am watching the NBA a lot more. So I really want to see what these rookies have. So I'm excited. This is a great draft. This is a great season coming up. Let's see what they got.
I agree. It's definitely a time to shake up some teams, and I think we are seeing a big shake-up on some different teams. And, yes, that Lakers-Philadelphia matchup next year is going to be hot with a lot of young talent in it. When you talk about Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, those guys going at it, that's going to be hot. So can't wait for that. So a lot of teams are shaking up. I guess my surprise is I'm kind of surprised Malik did fall to number 11 in the draft. I'm surprised that Boston went with Jason Tatum over Josh Jackson at number 3 slightly. We'll see, but that did surprise me. I thought there may be a little bit more trades. I didn't think it would necessarily. I didn't have Jimmy Butler on my radars being the guy traded on draft day. I thought it may have been more Paul George than Jimmy Butler, but a little bit shocked to that, and a little bit shocked that it was Minnesota that made that move for Jimmy Butler. So that was kind of my surprises so far from what we've seen on draft day so far through the first 23 picks in the first 3 hours of the NBA draft. Dan, your impressions before we sign off?
Yeah, definitely shocked by the Jimmy Butler trade. Isaac going 6th to Orlando. was a little surprising. The Trailblazers trading 2 first-round picks to move up for Zach Collins. I know, Brandon, you're high on Collins. I'm not that high on him, so somewhat of a surprise there, especially when you see what Sacramento got. Right now, I have Sacramento as the winners of this draft. I mean, they're getting 3 impact players that can help that team year one, so I like what the Kings are doing. Getting rid of not only DeMarcus Cousins midway through last year, I think that was an upgrade by substitution, addition by subtraction there. But they're putting together a decent roster. I mean, they're years away, but they're starting to get it right for a change. So that's nice to see coming out of Sacramento.
There you go. And I like the addition of Justin Jackson, another one I think is going to be a kind of a late steal. But still a lot more to go. You have to follow the NBA draft on ESPN. And, of course, check out the website, myfantasysportstalk.com. And we'll wrap up some more coverage tomorrow. Spread the word about the replays of this live draft show that's going to be up on YouTube on the My Fantasy Sports Talk YouTube page. Check us out next week where we're going to start our NFL fantasy draft prep heavy, and we'll cover some more fantasy baseball heavy for you. So check that out. Maybe the Yankees will pick up another win or two before we get into that podcast. So I won't have to eat total crow with Jackson Borland and DDT and all the Yankees fans out there.
But Memphis will get in this draft.
Why do we got to close out like that? I mean,
hey man, you want to take shots? We can take
I'm embarrassed.
shots all day, man.
I'm embarrassed here. And Chris Wallace, I trust. Hey, this draft ain't going to end till 2:00 Central Time a.m. But whatever. But we'll see what happens. But thanks for joining us live on the NBA Draft Show, My Fantasy Podcast, MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Check out all the great content on MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Check out My Fantasy Podcast weekly on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network, and, of course, WBLZSports.com. For our man, Dylan Davis-Trotto in New York and Dan in New York as well, I am Brandon Reed signing off. See you next time on My Fantasy Podcast next week. Thanks for joining us. Later, folks.